Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
I'm Peanut.
Tristan Jones.
I'm White Girl Interrupted. My mute button was stuck.
I have expected one of y'all to say you're Marvel Jesus, and we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss Deadpool and Wolverine. That's right. It's finally here. The event, the summer event movie of the year or whatever, the biggest movie of the year is finally here. We're happy to talk about it. Before I get everybody's thoughts on the movie, though, I want to hit you with some Deadpool and Wolverine facts. The movie was released July 26, 2024. It's the third Deadpool movie. It's the first R-rated movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the 34th film overall in the MCU, and the fourth movie in Phase 5. It's the only movie for the MCU this year, however. Technically, it's the 14th installment in the X-Men series, and it's the 10th time that Hugh Jackman is playing Logan/Wolverine. A budget of $200 million. As of right now, the movie has grossed $211 million. However, that's only considering Thursday and Friday. It's not even counting Saturday and Sunday. So that number is going to change, probably double by the end of the day. The runtime, 2 hours, 8 minutes. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score, 80% critic score, 97% audience score. Directed by Sean Levy. It's written by Ryan Reynolds, Sean Levy, Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, and Zeb Wells. And the cast, of course, includes Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Emma Corrin, Morena Baccarin, Rob Delaney, Leslie Uggams, Karan, Soni, Aaron Stanford, and Matthew Macfadyen. Tristan, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine?
I very much enjoyed Deadpool Wolverine, especially on the second watch this morning because I fell asleep on the first one last night. Went to like the 11:10 showing. I knew by like 11:50, I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it through this movie. And I didn't realize how much I missed. I thought I was kind of just dozing in and off, and I literally was asleep in the movie theaters. But second watch, enjoyed it a lot. I have some thoughts about this whole like the meta superhero, breaking the fourth wall thing that I'm kind of uneasy about, go back and forth about. But overall, it was a highly entertaining watch. I didn't feel like, oh man, like this is 2 hours and whatever. Like it flowed very well.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking down at my watch like, damn, when is this ending? Easy watch. Fight scenes were great. The comedic, humor is always going to be great for Deadpool. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Frank, what are your thoughts on the movie?
I thought it was cinematically perfect. I loved everything about it. I liked the jokes, the action. I like how they didn't like destroy the ending of Logan. I like the whole different Wolverine variant to where it preserved the ending of Logan to where it made sense. The cameos, man. I love the cameos. And for me, it just wasn't like cameo just to have a cameo. Those cameos that really played the storyline and made sense. Every rumor that you possibly heard of was in the movie. I love how they kind of indoctrinated Deadpool and not much into the. I know we'll talk about, but not into the 616 timeline. But they referenced them and like now they know about him pretty much. So I love how they left that open for the future of like how they can possibly fuse that. Like Tristan said, it was a very easy watch. It didn't seem like it was 2 hours. I've watched 6 hours of Deadpool over the last 4 days. It's a great movie. I have Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. I said this on our podcast last week, on the Boys podcast. I can see 2 or 3 more movies of Hugh Jackman. I know Kevin Feige came out a few weeks ago and said that he's not replacing Wolverine anytime soon. So I feel like we're gonna get more, if not Deadpool Wolverine, but just like more Hugh Jackman appearances. Great movie. I loved it.
Yeah, I think with the announcement from Comic-Con last night, which we'll talk about later, we're definitely getting more Deadpool and Wolverine, whether it's in Deadpool and Wolverine movies or in Avengers movies, but we'll talk about that later. Brittany, general thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine?
It shot to my favorite, of course. I mean, last week we talked about Deadpool 2 and Logan, and I said for me personally that the first Deadpool was my favorite. This immediately is at the top. What more can I say that my fellow watchers haven't already elaborated on? It's a great movie. I absolutely love the fact that nothing is off limits. The fact that they're taking shots at not only Fox, but also taking shots within the MCU itself. You know, talking about how the multiverse just quote doesn't work, and it's what have you. The fact that Kevin Feige signed off on this is just hilarious to me, and I loved every moment of it. Watched it for the first time yesterday morning, watched it for a second time this morning, and picked up on some things I didn't catch the first time. But man, I screamed during the theater. In the theater, I clapped. I was like, oh my God, I'm singing along to the songs. Soundtrack for all Deadpool movies have always been like on point. And I love the fact that we absolutely got Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine, and getting him just brought a whole other element for my love of not only X-Men and Deadpool itself, but also just now for the MCU. It's like, yeah, you're coming in at a low point. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I know we're going to really delve into it.
Yeah.
Of course, but overall, love this movie. It's fantastic. Went out and bought a shirt.
There
Just
you go.
this movie, of course,
Very
Deadpool
cool.
and Wolverine, best friends forever. And I ended up getting the same Deadpool and Wolverine charms as a keychain or a keychain set from the theater. So that was cool. And Justin, I know you got a lot of merch too from your many views of this
I
movie.
did. Yeah, I've seen the movie 3 times. I mean, obviously there's some recency bias in here, but this is one of the most entertaining movies I think I've ever seen. It's one of those things where it's like, it's truly like when they say something's an event film, this is an event film. This is like an experience. And I think I'm always going to remember watching this movie for the first time. It's much like No Way Home, much like Endgame, much like Infinity War. To me, it's like right up there with those movies. I don't know if it's emotionally, it doesn't hit like those movies do, but, wow, what an experience watching this movie, and just how they kind of paid tribute to the Fox films, which, are not well regarded for the most part, besides the X-Men movies, and how you're bringing Deadpool into the MCU. Just, I mean, everything, it was kind of like perfectly executed, really. Like the humor hit, the music was on point, like all the needle drops, and like Frank said, the cameos were characters. They weren't cameo. There's only one that was like really a cameo. And that one like was such a surprising cameo that you're like, I don't care, give me that too. Just what an unbelievable experience. And I want to say, like, we have not given away any spoilers just yet. So this is the end of our spoiler-free talk for this episode. So if you have not seen this movie, which I recommend everyone seeing this movie, if you have not seen this movie, please go watch this movie, come back to this video, and leave your comments in the chat, or leave your comments below. We'd appreciate that. But from now on out, we're going to spoil this movie. We're going to get into everything, all the cameos, all the craziness. And hey, Brittany, I want to start with you. What did you think about the opening scene? Because Deadpool movies are known for having epic opening scenes, and this one was no different.
You're correct. What I love, and you know what's funny? I'm going to go side real quick. People hate on Nickelback a lot, and I'm going to make a point. People hate on Nickelback. Formula, they're not sensitized, but just overly produced, whatever. But Deadpool also has a formula, okay, people? Deadpool will always start like with a banger of an opening and then say, but let me take you back, 6 weeks ago, a few days ago, blah, blah, blah. But it works. It works every single time. And this opening was no exception. I had quite a few people tell me I should go watch this movie in 3D solely for the opening. Yep. And you know what? If I could see 3D, even with the glasses, I would, because it would have been fucking incredible. But having In Sync, bye to the opening of this epic fight sequence between Deadpool and the TVA. I don't even know what you call those guys, but like the hunters, the TVA hunters, right? Using dead Logan's skeleton, full adamantium skeleton as your weapon. And it's just kind of like, how, I know what you're thinking, like, how are we going to honor Logan in this movie? And the answer is we're not. And it's just so fucking epic. The creativity behind this whole thing. And then you get Deadpool dancing the choreography to Bye. I mean, my millennial self was just screaming and dancing in my seat and singing along. Oh my God, what an awesome moment. Just before we move forward, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's here in today's chat. Tracy, King B. Johnson, Johnny, Rakib, thank y'all so much, and everyone else. Oh, and M Moves. How could I forget M Moves? Thank y'all so much for being here. Tracy here says that was awesome in regards to the opening sequence. But it was kind of messed up though, using a Logan skeleton. But hey, fucking fantastic. At this point, it set the tone for the whole entire movie, and I'm like, let's fucking go.
Exactly. Frank, what'd you think about the digging up Logan scene and just how, basically Deadpool's like, look, this guy's not dead. I know he's not dead. Then he finds him and he's like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical expert, but you're very much passed away.
That was pulled from a comic book actually, where Deadpool he buries it wasn't Wolverine, it was a variant of Thanos, because Thanos and Deadpool like fighting each other for the affections of Lady Love death, and he unburies Thanos in one of these comic books, and it was exactly pulled from that scene. And like, instead of Deadpool fighting TVA, he's fighting like members of the Black Order of Thanos. It was perfect placement. I don't know who idea was that. I don't know if it was Levy's or Reynolds or whoever, but that was perfect. It was the way they desecrated his grave, and like the fighting scenes in sync. It was lovely. I loved it. I thought it was perfect.
Tristan, thought on the opening. Did you enjoy the just the choreography to the fighting and the bones coming at you, and the use of the claws by Deadpool and all that stuff?
Yeah, the use of the bones was that was the highlight for me. Outside of the NSYNC, I'm always here for bye bye bye. First, when my wife and I were walking out to the car, first thing she mentioned about the movie was the intro and the NSYNC part. So, no, we absolutely loved it. I agree with Brittany said, it set the tone for the rest of the movie. For me, who's not I've seen the Deadpool movies, but I don't go back and rewatch them a lot.
Yeah.
So the context for me and Deadpool is less than a lot of other people. I needed that tone setter. Oh yeah, this is super vile, super. Super explicit, like I said, like a tad bit of necrophilia, like that. Yeah. Deadpool is always going to take it there, and that intro, it was nothing different. That was just what you come to expect from Deadpool, and it's going to hit you right in the face, and it did. So it worked for me.
Yeah, and Brittany, you mentioned about 3D. So I saw the movie twice in 3D. Not really by choice. It's just the times worked out better for me. So the first available times were 3D times on both Thursday and Friday. And I'm really glad I saw it in 3D, because those bones are coming at you, and the sword and the claws and stuff. And it's it was really incredible the way they shot that. And honestly, I've seen many movies in 3D over the years, and I never thought it 3D really helped. But this movie, it really enhanced the experience of the movie. So I would, if you can see 3D once again, go try to do that if you can.
I do quickly before we move on further. I do want to say, y'all know me about continuity. This is one thing I'm going to pick on, because if it's Logan from the same timeline that Deadpool is in, which is going to be the 1000.
Yeah, 10005.
10005. Thank you. That's helpful. Logan at that point didn't have adamantium claws anymore. It was strictly the bone claws. So I'm not sure where Deadpool got those adamantium claws when he, placed them on his hands, and then did the very iconic Wolverine stance, and then you see titles. So that's my one continuity issue.
Wow, that's a great point. I did not even think about that.
Yeah. I'm unless the X, oh God, we just talked about this movie, Logan, the
X-24.
X-24, unless his claws were lying around somewhere, maybe that would be the explanation. But if we're going solely based on the skeleton that was Logan, it's not consistent, but it's fine. It had the effect that it needed. It was perfection, truly.
Yeah. In this movie, we are introduced. Well, we're not introduced to the TVA, but some people maybe are introduced to the TVA. If you didn't watch Loki season 1 or 2, you're probably not aware of the TVA. We learn about the TVA. We learn about how they're these anchor beings, which I thought was really interesting. The fact that Logan, because he died, and obviously he was the most important character. And it's very much a meta take also, because he was the most important character in the Fox film universe. And so because he dies, his timeline is dying. Matthew Macfadyen's character, Mr. Paradox, is he's determined like he's gonna use this machine called the Time Ripper to, he's basically trying to move his way up in the TVA, and he's gonna in these worlds and kind of show that he should be in charge. So we learn about anchor beings, which I think is really interesting. And before Marvel's big announcement last night, I had a question for y'all about who is the anchor being of the 616, and I don't know. We'll get to that maybe later. But I really enjoyed all that talk. And then speaking of the 616, Deadpool uses Cable's device to travel from Earth 10005 to Earth 616. And Frank, I was not expecting to see Deadpool interview with Happy Hogan to join the Avengers. Talk me through that scene.
Yeah, so I mean, after the events of Deadpool 2, he's pretty much resetting everything in his timeline. And while he's doing that, he's like, you know what? Let me go here and find me some purpose. I want to be after my Cable Domino X Factor experience. I think I can be a superhero like full time. So he's interviewing with Happy Hogan this is what 6/16/2018. So this is before I'm assuming before the events of Infinity War.
I think it's like the day before or something. It's like very
Infinity War.
I think so.
Okay, so he's interviewing Happy Hogan because he wants to be an Avenger. While he's talking to Happy, he's trying to save his best stuff. He's like, "Hey man, like, is the boss going to show up? Like, I don't want to use all my best stuff on you. No offense, but pretty much what he's trying to do is, I guess this Trouble in Paradise back at home. I don't know how much time has passed after he saved his girl from being shot from the second movie, but he's looking for purpose, and he seemed to be doing a good interview until he said that when Happy asked him why you want to be an Avenger, he's like, I need it for me. Like I need this. You guys are the A-listers of heroes, and it's kind of what he felt in the interview, and where Happy tells him like, it's not about you needed it. It's about people needing you and helping people, and so that's what the interview kind of bombed. But it was a dope ass cameo, man, of seeing Happy again. And kind of just like introducing you to the audience, like, hey, like the 616, they know Deadpool's around, they know he's alive, they know he's a thing in this world. So I thought it was pretty cool, a pretty cool scene. I was kind of surprised how comfortable Happy was, like talking to him, like if he knew that he was from a different multiverse, because at 2018, we still. That part of MCU, we still don't know about the multiverse at this point. A little bit with Doctor Strange, but not to the totality pre-Thanos. So I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, no, that's another good point about the plot. Hey, Brittany, if you wouldn't mind, if you could put that thing up that Raheem just said about Peter Parker. So what he's talking about, there's a photo in the background where the Iron Man helmet is, and actually it's not from Iron Man 2. It's the photo of Tony with Peter during the Stark internship, the one that Tony looks at in Endgame and realizes I've got to go back in time. I've got to fix this time machine. I've got to save the kid.
Yeah,
that's the picture. And the mask is covering Peter because they can't show Peter without Spider-Man being in the film due to like the Sony film rights.
Licensing.
So, so that's the reason for that. But no, that's very, very cool to point that out. I love this scene because of all of like the layers to it. You think about Jon Favreau was the director of the first MCU film, Iron Man. He's also, of course, Happy Hogan, but he also was in one of the Fox movies, Daredevil. He was, he played, what's his name? A Daredevil's guy. God, what is
Foggy?
Foggy. Yeah. He plays Foggy in that. And so I love how you get like kind of like the double layers there of that character. And the fact that he's like Deadpool is interviewing with Jon Favreau or, with Happy Hogan to join the MCU with the first director of the MCU. I think that was, intentionally done to, it's like, hey, you're interviewing with the guy that kind of helped start this whole thing. I love the humor in this scene also, where he's like, he's talking about, he's like, where's the big guy? And Happy's like, oh, he doesn't do this stuff anymore. And he's like, what, cameos? I thought that was great.
Timing, people, my goodness.
I love Deadpool talking about how he was masturbating. He had the Hulk hands just going to town on the nether region, he said, or whatever.
Like the us, like, is it us?
Right.
Weren't you a chauffeur?
Yeah. What's your superpower? Parallel parking? Is that what you're? Yeah. No,
That's my superpower.
yeah, no, I love that stuff. Tristan, what are your thoughts on the Deadpool interviewing to join the Avengers?
I mean, again, the comedic purposes, just him. I like the Deadpool. I think is really good at is kind of weaving in the serious with the funny. Like obviously, he's demonstrating some form of like vulnerability, like wanting to find purpose, wanting to feel like needed, wanting to matter in a large scale. But he also can't get over the assholeness and like, just it reminds me of somebody I know, like myself, honestly. It's like, hey, no matter how serious I am, if there's an opportunity to kind of jab somebody, it's hard to hold that back. So I loved it. I love seeing like also like the artifacts, the Tony Stark. Like this is proof Tony Stark has a heart.
Yeah.
On his desk, the Iron Man shield, not Iron Man, Captain America shield. Yeah. Like all those like callbacks. Again, the film is letting you know this is where we're moving. Like we're moving into this Marvel space. While also, making fun of Marvel at every turn. Like I love that.
Yeah, and I love the message because Wade is telling Happy like, I need this. I need to do something with my life. I need to have purpose. I need to show this, show my girl that I can do this. And Happy turns it on him and says, look, like the Avengers, like they don't do it because they need it. They do it because the people need that. And so I like that kind of that play on words. And then of course that pays off in the end when Deadpool decides to sacrifice himself, or he tries to sacrifice himself. Yeah, this movie, like honestly, like we're like 10 minutes in, and I'm just like, wow, this is an amazing movie. And we still got 2 hours to go, and like this is just the start of it. Then Deadpool is he goes to the TVA. We meet Mr. Paradox, and I just want to let's talk about the villains right now. What did y'all think about the villains overall with Mr. Paradox, with Emma Corrin's version of Cassandra Nova, even with Pyro? Brittany, what do you think about the villains?
So given that I was unaware of Cassandra Nova's existence in this world, I'm not a comic book reader like Frank is. Frank is our in-house comic book expert, which we very much appreciate because he can always elaborate on things better than we can. So learning that she is Charles Xavier's twin and has powers of her own that are equally powerful, and she uses it for evil, because why not? But her performance, I think, was really great, because the first time I ever saw her was in The Crown. She played a younger version of Princess Diana, and she was perfect, like down to the accent, down to the looks, down to everything. She was absolutely perfection in The Crown. And so seeing a different side of her to be a more villainous character, and it was kind of humorous at times. I was getting vibes of like someone who's kind of kooky, but also just someone who like knows how to use their powers and knows how to like fuck shit up, right? And so when I did a little bit of research and I saw that her influences were Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka, and then Christoph Waltz's performance in Inglourious Bastards, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I see it now. Like it's totally there, because Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards was like hideous. Like you really wanted to reach into the screen and just like clobber him, So I really enjoyed her performance. I kind of wish we got maybe like a little bit more from her, just to get a little bit more from her. But I think she served her purpose well. Paradox, I thought, was humorous, of course, especially in the end when he's trying to appeal to the hunter. Oh God, what's her name from Loki?
B-15.
B-15, thank you. She's questioning him about his involvement in what's happening, and he's like, saying, I wasn't involved as these two heroes, my friends, and there's nothing we can do to bring them back. And then you hear Deadpool saying like he has risen, and then Paradox is like, fuck.
Yeah.
So the comedic relief in him as well as being the villain, I thought was a good blend. I really did enjoy that as well.
Frank, what'd you think about the villains? Because I know some people have kind of, as far as like finding criticism with this movie, some people are kind of saying that they're these are weaker villains. What did you think about the villains?
I had no problem with the villains. This is a Deadpool Wolverine movie, so I knew the majority of the movie was going to be about Deadpool and Wolverine and them being indoctrinated in this in the MCU. So they could have used street level villains. I would have been fine with it. Like I mean, I thought TV was balanced. And talking about the multiverse, but I had no problem with it. I love Cassandra Nova. I'm very familiar with her character. She's pretty much Professor X unhinged. This is what it looks like if Professor X is unchecked, and I love the character. I actually seen her. I watched the first 2 seasons of Pennyworth after Pennyworth's DC show. She was in that as well. That's how I was first introduced to her. Yeah, I thought the actress I played was great. I mean, I love Pyro. I love the comedic timing of Pyro. I didn't think he'd be that funny because he's not funny in the X-Men movies from the early 2000s. So I thought it was great.
I low key did. It took me a second to recognize Pyro because I was so hung up on the teeth. I totally just forgot about his appearance. And I'm like, ew, that's disgusting. And then it was the scene where he's absorbing the fire from another character that I was like, oh, this is Pyro. Like, hello. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they brought back Aaron Stanford to reprise his role from X1, X2. I think he was the X-Men Last Stand. That's probably his biggest movie was X.
Yeah, all three of them.
Yeah. Tristan, you and I, we're both fans of Succession. Well, Frank is too. What do you think about Matthew Macfadyen playing Mr. Paradox?
I like Matthew Macfadyen in Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought he was underwhelming as a villain. Like I guess obviously I slept through a good portion of the first viewing, but I was underwhelmed by all the villains. After watching it last night, 70% of the movie, I suppose. I was a little bit less underwhelmed by the villains after this morning. I think the movie made the choice of like, this could be a hero villain driven type story, or we can spend the majority of this on building the relationship between Deadpool and Wolverine. Obviously, this is a Deadpool and Wolverine movie. And I think they made the right choice. Like, I'm underwhelmed because I think I was supposed to be underwhelmed by the villains. Like, Cassandra Nova didn't really. She moved me a lot on the second watch. Like, I'm like, okay, this bitch is like diabolical and crazy. With enough comic relief, like they were like, "Hey, why are you like this?" Like, I don't know. It's like I felt that. But I didn't have an issue with the villains. It's just that they were supposed to be underwhelming. Matthew Macfadyen, I thought, provided more comedic relief than he did like villainy. Like, I didn't honestly, even on the second watch, like paying full attention, I didn't get full, villain. I got like somebody who, like he said at the end, was trying to do something that other people didn't want to do. It was out of protocol. Like that's more so his villain role. Like, I didn't really get. He's an antagonist more than a villain, I would say. Yeah. Sandra Nova is a villain. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, it was supposed to be like that. I'm happy they made that choice. It made the movie better. I think if they would have just spent so much time on this 1-to-1 Deadpool Wolverine versus blank, it would have taken away a lot of, I think, what made the movie great. I think we can call that great. So I had no problem with the villains. It's just that outside of Cassandra Nova, they weren't really villains to me. It's just more antagonists.
Yeah, I can see your point. I think they were both really strong because you had actors that are like on very popular shows, like in the prime of their careers. And they're really, I mean, that's one of the criticisms of all the MCU movies. It's like, besides Thanos and Killmonger and Loki, the villains are pretty weak, right? Well, I think they were they're not in that same level as the villains I just mentioned, but I think they're right under that. Of course, the villain for the next two Avengers films might be the #1 villain of all time. We'll see about that. But I really enjoyed what both of these actors did in this role. And even Aaron Stanford, he was kind of like a third, kind of a side villain, side boss kind of guy. I thought they did a good job of moving the story along, and there's a lot of story to maneuver because you've obviously got timelines and you're looking for different characters and different variants and all this kind of stuff. But I thought they served their purpose pretty well. And you get back to the Deadpool is taken to the TVA and he's told that he's special, and he thinks that he's told the story about the anchor being about how the timeline's dying off, and he thinks it's him. And Matthew Macfadyen, or Mr. Paradox, has a good long laugh about it. And then he plays a clip where he shows the end of Logan, and it like him like mouthing the part where Logan's like, so this is what it feels like when this is what this feels like. Is he dying? Like, and how everyone is like so touched by that. I thought like to me that was kind of showing respect for the Logan film, even though it was kind of done in a joking way. That was kind of that way. And the same thing whenever he's showing a Deadpool clips of the Avengers and he sees Captain America and he's like Cap and he, salutes and, kind of plants that seed for the swerve that we're going to get in a little bit. I thought all that stuff was so well done and really like brought, all the stuff from all these different universes together, which is very hard to do. And to me, they did it pretty seamlessly, like almost like where it's like, wow, this is the way you should do this.
So I have a question real quick, and maybe someone here can answer it. Do we know in terms of where this takes place, like time-wise? Like this with the TVA takes place 6 years after.
So 2024.
Deadpool goes, right. But in terms of like what happens with Loki, like, and all of that going on in season 2 of Loki, do we know where this all may fit into all of that?
The only reference is the part where Mr. Paradox says, we used to just prune these timelines, but we don't do that anymore. So that's a reference to season 2.
Right. So it's kind of like, is it taking place immediately after season 2? Because, and I'm not going to talk about season 2 because I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't watched it, but I'm just curious about where this may all fit in the timeline and then like moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's a great question because even the MCU currently, I don't know that they're even actually like current movies. Are they actually in 2024? Or are they in 2025? Because
no idea.
So the timeline's confusing because of the 5-year, the blip. So that's where you kind of get messed up. But Brittany, since you did watch Loki season 2, did you think we were going to see Loki in this film?
I low key was kind of low key and low key Key was hoping that we would get to see something of him. We got a line, like a kind of a paraphrase line of Loki's that Deadpool says when he encounters a certain big green character as he's on the search for a Wolverine. But I was kind of hoping we would get to see him, but I'm okay with not having seen him. It's okay.
Yeah, and so Deadpool, again, he thinks he's special. He thinks he's actually Marvel Jesus. He thinks he's the Messiah, which that joke kind of plays out throughout the movie. Frank, what did you think about just the whole like Deadpool thinking he's the one and actually it's Logan? The fact that it is Logan, which makes sense given how important that character was to the Fox universe, like meta, like business wise, and also like in our world, but also in the 10005 timeline.
It's just classic Deadpool, man. It's just classic Deadpool, like finding ways to like creating humor in some of the most like critical, chaotic ways possible. One thing about Ryan Reynolds, man, I think Ryan embodies the character. Like when you don't know where Deadpool ends and where Ryan begins, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And when I watch like Tony Stark and like Robert Downey, I feel like with Tony, Robert Downey elevated the character while Ryan embodied the character. Like Tony is not as he's not as funny and quick-witted and like easy on the comedic eye in the comic books. Downey elevated that character. I've read about 75 Deadpool comics, and I don't know where it begins where Ryan stops. So like he is Deadpool, and like those scenes of just the fourth wall and the jokes when he's stressed or uncomfortable, like the timing is perfection to a core. I mean, we talk about method acting all the time. I don't think Ryan Reynolds is acting. I think this is how he is at home with Blake. I think this is how he is and just in public. We watch all his interviews prior to the Deadpool trilogy. This is who he is, and it's every scene that he's in when it comes to like just comedic timing. He was born to play this role. Like he is the anchor beam of like of our Earth right now. Is what it seems like. So
Facts.
Yeah, no, he's definitely the anchor being of the current MCU right now in 2024 on July 28th, 2024. No doubt about that. One thing that Deadpool sees that he can't let go of throughout the whole film is a something that's going to happen in the future that involves the God of Thunder, Thor. Now, I'm pretty sure that's reused footage from Thor: Dark World with Loki and Thor crying. But Tristan, I want to get your thoughts. Did you expect to see Thor later on in the film, and do you think we'll get that played out, or that scene paid off in future Avenger films, or maybe a Thor Deadpool team up?
I do think that we'll get that scene played out in some
Yeah.
form or fashion. I did not expect to see Thor or really any other Avengers, even though damn near all of them are referenced at some point
Yeah.
throughout this movie. No, I didn't expect to see that at all. And I'm ignorant on where that scene could have been from. I didn't see Dark Thunder. I think we talked about this.
Dark World was in phase 2. Yeah, it's been a while.
Dark Thunder sounds good too.
Dark World. No, I don't either. I didn't see it. I just scrubbed it from my brain. So no, I didn't expect to see Thor.
Yeah,
you pruned it from your mind. We got it.
Pruned the fuck out of that. That timeline has been erased.
What about the comedy though? About Deadpool waking up and he's like God of Thunder, or asking questions like why was Thor crying? Like
he wakes up, he's like Thor.
Yeah, he can't let go of Thor.
I mean that goes into like just the Deadpool like character, like him being so meta about everything. There's all these nods to the audience, and things that could happen, like past Marvel events. Like they really leaned into this in a way I don't recall them doing on the first 2, if I'm not mistaken. But like they really leaned into like the breaking that fourth wall and just keeping that motif running throughout is just really another example of that, like demonstrating like this. While this style of superhero movie is different than anything else that we would have gotten, like we don't normally get that meta commentary from superheroes during those movies. Like we don't really know what they're thinking, unless they say it. And Deadpool, like that's a niche like trait for Deadpool. So I appreciate it. It's a little weird to me because I'm not a super Deadpool person, you know what I'm saying? So like it's a different vibe, different styling, but it works comedically, it works, stylistically, and the movie doesn't suffer at all for it. So I have no issue with it.
Yeah, the only other fourth wall breaker we have in the MCU currently is She-Hulk. She does that quite a bit in her series, and that's her in the comics also. But in this film, you're right about how meta it is. I mean, there's so many times. I mean, he refers to Logan as Hugh a couple of times. He mentions Blake, meaning his wife, his real life wife, Blake Lively, who, by the way, makes an appearance in this movie. Although it's not, you don't see her face, but we'll talk about that maybe a little bit.
Would I have loved to?
But like the way they cross over, like mentioning like real life stuff and contract negotiations, and hey, we have to kill this character because look what he was doing to the budget. Like we got to get this guy out of here. Like
also there's 206 bones in the human body, 207 if I'm watching Gossip Girl, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, because she was on Gossip Girl.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
fantastic.
But Brittany, I didn't want to move past this before I got your thoughts on it. The Thor Deadpool stuff. So would you rather see a Thor Deadpool team up, or would you rather see that scene play out in an Avengers movie where maybe Deadpool takes the place of Loki and Loki comes back from what happened in season 2 of Loki?
I feel like that's setting it up more for perhaps like an Avengers style movie, just because we don't have confirmation for sure of the next Deadpool movie, or for sure the next Thor movie. I know there's been talks of a Thor 5 and what have you, but I don't think it'll necessarily be incorporated into a Thor movie. To me, it seems like more of a setup for a team up movie. And then because we're in the multiverse saga, it's one of those things where it might just, go back in time or be pulled into a different timeline where you witness this happen. And it may or may not be the Deadpool that we are very familiar with. It could be, one of the other Deadpools from the core. I don't know. It's hard to say at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very interesting thing to have out there, though. It's definitely like, this movie doesn't have a whole lot of like, oh, what's going to happen next? Like, it's not, as they always say, it's not a commercial for another movie down the line. But I do like that they left something where it's like, hey, this could be a team up. This could be an Avengers thing. This could be a money making deal. Like whichever way you want to go, this could be a big thing to have
I just
you
hope
know,
it pays off. That's the only thing. Because
Yeah.
like Deadpool's been really good about like making good on something that you'll see in the movie, and then it'll pay off in another movie. So I'm just hoping that this is going to pay off as well.
we may not actually ever see that scene really happen, but we will see Deadpool and Thor interact, and that will be referenced. I will guarantee that, because Ryan Reynolds, he does tie up loose ends. He's very good about that, because he, it's like a machine gun with the comedy. He's going to hit everything eventually. Frank, I want to talk to you about this part, because we find out that Logan obviously is the anchor being, and so Deadpool goes to find another Wolverine, and then we get the awesome Wolverine montage. And Frank, I think this probably, given your comic background, all the different versions of Wolverine. And let's go through them, starting out with Short King Wolverine. What'd you think about that? And then you just take the ball and run with it.
You talking about the Gossip Girl reference? My 207th bone protruded during that scene for sure. Dude, I saw Patch, that Wolverine from Madripoor. That was kind of referenced in Falcon Winter Soldier. You see the Cavalry, Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill,
I mean, there was so many rumors about him possibly taking up the mantle in this world. And like the Short King Wolverine, it was actually a play on like Wolverine's actual height in the comic books. He's 5'3". So seeing that was cool. The Wolverine in the old school orange and burnt brown suit fighting Hulk, the Hulk versus Wolverine, which I hope we get this for the cinematic universe, Hulk versus Wolverine. If fucking Universal can ever let go of that fucking Hulk licensing, man, we finally get that done. But man, the other Wolverines, the rock and roll Wolverine, wasn't too familiar with that one. The old man.
What
Logan,
about the one on the X?
I wasn't sure about that one either. The old man Logan, Crocodile Dundee Logan with the gun. That was playing with old man Logan. I mean, it was so many, man. I soared my pants a little bit during that scene. I'm not gonna lie.
Were you conscious or unconscious like Deadpool was when he went to the TVA?
I was very conscious. I knew what I was doing. I just didn't feel like cleaning up aisle 4 at that point. So yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Can I make a quick mention about Calvarine?
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it.
Okay, because I mean, are we talking about it now? Or are we talking about
no? Go for it. Yeah, go.
Okay, so it took me a second. I was just like, that back looks very familiar, and it's very large. And then, of course, you get the whole reveal of it and what have you. And it took me on the second watch to notice this, that Calvarine did the kind of charge up like he did in Mission Impossible with the claw. So instead of the traditional, like, rawr, like both claws going at the same time, he did the 1-2 thing. And then he came after Deadpool, which I thought was fucking amazing. But Deadpool's whole like speech to him about, we're going to treat you so much better than those guys down the street. And I was just like, okay, now is that a shot at DC or is that
DC.
A shot at The Witcher?
No, DC, 100%.
Okay.
100,000%. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. Because like given with The Witcher and the status of that anyway, but all of that, I was like, yes, Henry Cavill as Wolverine. So now we can officially say that we have one other actor who has played Wolverine, and that is none other than Henry Cavill, which I love. I think it's fantastic.
Very cool. Tristan, did you have a favorite Wolverine variant in the montage?
Man, that's a great question. I will say this. I don't know if I have a favorite. That montage is one of my top parts of the movie. That's one of my favorite scenes. Favorite Wolverine variant? It's probably the old one, the one that we got through the rest of the movie. But I thought the short one that was just funny. I don't know. Either the Short King Wolverine or Calvarine. It's probably Calvarine.
Yeah. I love the brown and yellow suit fighting the Hulk, because I didn't think we were going to get that. And the fact that we got to see the Hulk just from behind and you barely see him, and then Deadpool's like, I'm Marvel Jesus, don't hurt me or whatever. That was great.
That's when he started quoting Loki, from Avengers 1.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fantastic. But I think also the Mary Lou Retton line
Yeah.
on Short Wolverine just
Harry Lou Retton.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's
Did
just
you
like,
stick the landing? Yeah.
did you say yes? You did. Yes, you did stick the landing. I was like, Jesus.
The Cavill one though, honestly, in the theater, that got a big reaction every time I saw the movie because I think it's a very surprise because this is the guy who played Superman, who's no longer Superman, and he's been since being let go as Superman. He's been rumored to play numerous characters in the MCU, from Captain Britain to Doctor Doom, which we actually have a Doctor Doom now. We'll talk about that later. To assortment like Sentry, which Sentry is a character who's going to be in Thunderbolts, who is also a Superman-like character. Cavill's been mentioned for all these people, but he's also been mentioned as like, hey, if they decide to recast or you go with a younger version of Wolverine, he would be great. If Hugh Jackman is really done, and yeah, physically imposing, like, dude looked massive. But
There was also rumors about him joining like the Game of Thrones universe as well as a Targaryen.
Right. I could see that too. I could definitely see that. Given recent news with characters being recast as other characters, I don't think this means like he's like one and done with the MCU. I think he will play a character in the MCU that's not obviously this Wolverine. This is kind of like a John Krasinski playing Mr. Fantastic, kind of like hey, a nod to all the fan casting, kind of like a joke, obviously. But I don't think this takes him out of the running for future MCU roles. I don't know which one he'll get, but I do think he will be considered for something because the reaction, like I said, every time I saw it was strong, and the reaction online's been pretty strong too. So definitely that was like a totally surprising moment. So and that honestly was like that was a true cameo. But now let's move on to the cameos that actually became characters. And Frank, I want to get your thoughts on Wolverine and Deadpool are sent to the void. Now we find out it's the worst Wolverine. He's the one who let his world die, let the X-Men die. He was at the bar getting drunk while I guess the Friends of or is it Friends of Humanity? Yeah, Friends of Humanity, or maybe the Sentinels or whatever, the humans quote unquote killed the other X-Men. So we're taken to they are sent to the void by Paradox, and of course they fight for a little bit. One of many battles. We're going to talk about some of those also here in a little bit. But in the void, they're kind of in this this wasteland, and the villains show up and surround them, and they see this cloaked character, which you hear the voice, and you're like, hey, that sounds like somebody very familiar, and he's wearing kind of like red, white, and blue kind of stuff. And Frank, it was not Captain America. It was Chris Evans though, but it was not Captain America. Who did we get to see?
My boy Johnny Storm, this motherfucker, man. Yeah, man. He showed up to reprise the role of Johnny from Fantastic Four. I loved it, man, because to me it was the ultimate play action pump fake. Like I loved how, because we heard rumors for months that he'll be in this movie in some juncture, but to get the Johnny Storm cameo, I thought was cool. And like you got to see more of like of Chris Evans's acting range, because Johnny Storm is a very different, unserious character compared to Captain America. Captain America's more rigid and more patriotic, So seeing him kind of go riff a little bit in that film as Johnny Storm, I thought was kind of cool. I do have one beef about this movie, and it's not even a beef. It's a character flaw that they didn't get right. Wolverine can't get drunk. Like he can't get his healing generation. It automatically like repairs his cells so he can't get drunk. This reference in Captain America too, with the same super soldier serum when he's trying to get drunk and he can't. Yeah. Same with Wolverine, he can't get drunk. So like I thought that was kind of weird that they implemented that goes against the physiology of what Wolverine is. But no, but I love seeing Chris Evans in it as Johnny Storm. I had heard rumors about Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm being in it as well, but I'm glad they had Chris Evans and Johnny Storm in it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, and with Chris Evans, you're made to believe it's Captain America, given the way he's dressed, and given he does the superhero landing, which of course Deadpool, he loves that from the first movie. He's always been like, oh, that's it looks amazing, but it's very not very practical on your knees. And then you hear his voice, and then Deadpool thinks it's Cap, and he's like, oh, he's about to say Avengers, and then he says flame on, and then like he turns into Johnny Storm, and Johnny Storm. The thing about that character from those mid 2000s films, he's a brash, trash talking 20-year-old kid, like a college kid, and so that's why when he gets his demise, which is pretty shocking and pretty swift, it kind of made sense. Like there was a lot of joking. It seemed like Deadpool kind of like led him to his death, but that's actually the Johnny Storm character. Tristan, what'd you think about the reveal? Did you think it was Captain America, or did you know it was going to be Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four?
I did not think it was going to be Captain America. Just for the audience, I'm not the comic guy. The only comic I've read extensively is Black Panther. So most of this shit goes over my head until it's explained to me, like a 10-year-old. So I had no expectations. I could understand Chris Evans's voice.
Yeah.
And I did know that he was Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four. And not that that's a movie I've watched more than once or whatever.
Yeah.
Watched more than once, but never thought it was Captain America. Definitely thought it was Johnny Storm. I didn't know. I guess either on the first or second watch, I didn't really fully get the relevancy of it. Like I know Johnny Storm from Fantastic Four, but like how that corresponds or relates with Deadpool, I have zero idea. I defer to a comic experts on that.
Yeah, no, it's more about how these Fox characters are in the void because it's kind of a symbol. It's kind of symbolic of like how those movies were kind of left behind. They're kind of they're kind of relics of the past. Some people remember some of the characters, but these were not. At the time they were, for fans of this stuff, it was great to have them, but they pale in comparison to the MCU movies, which are much better, and even like the Dark Knight films, of course, that are higher caliber superhero movies. But it's kind of a commentary about how these were like less important movies of a bygone era, and they were kind of paying. I mean, obviously they did pay tribute to them at the end credits. But Brittany, what are your thoughts on Johnny Storm, and also how Cassandra Nova takes care of him and ends his run in this movie?
Jeez. So I think I've said it here many times on the pod that I'm not a fan of Fantastic Four, which might change given the new villain that we just learned about yesterday from Comic-Con. However, I kind of sort of have watched the first Fantastic Four that did have Chris Evans, Jessica Alba, and company. So I just don't remember a lot of it, but I always thought it was kind of interesting how you have an actor who then eventually was recast in another Marvel movie installment or whatever that was a completely different character. So it's like, well, how are they going to make this work? And they made it work.
Different universes. That's why.
Different universes, different characters, and what have you. They're in the void. They're kind of like thrown away because they didn't play nice in their timeline and what have you. And so, yes, the shit talking was very uncharacteristic of that. Of, let's say, one Captain America, but given that this is Johnny Storm, hey, it's apparently appropriate. And he had a lot to say. He had a lot to say that was off camera that we didn't get to see until the post credit, and got a bit of a potty mouth. Like, my goodness, a lot of the stuff that he said, I didn't even know were words. Okay, so
yeah.
So that being said, when all that he said was repeated back by Deadpool to Cassandra Nova and all these things, I mean, it was only appropriate that he would die because you're pissing off the one person that you don't want to piss off in the void. And she did it in a very creative way, which was ripping his skin off of his entire body to all that's left is muscle, skeleton,
bones and blood. Yeah.
And blood, and then he just completely collapses. And it's just like, I've never seen anything like that before, let alone in an MCU type movie. But this kind of thing can only be done in Deadpool. So, very appropriate. Yeah. I wouldn't expect anything less, truly, just how bloody and violent it was.
Right.
However, it was hilarious that Deadpool is getting heat for causing the death of one Johnny Storm. And then he's like, post credit, hey, like, I'm really sick and tired of people saying that I'm the reason for this. And you go back to the post credit, you get a cameo of Kevin. Now, not Kevin Feige, Kevin, the camera thing that
The
was
AI.
in She-Hulk.
Yeah,
the AI.
AI that's in charge of all the MCU storylines from She-Hulk.
Right.
Right.
So we saw that revealed in She-Hulk, and it's, flipping its little cameras around and zooming in, and Deadpool's like encouraging this talk, like, yes, tell me more. Like, girl, you crazy.
Yeah.
And Johnny's just going on and on and on, and finally says, and you can quote me. And it's like, okay. And then Deadpool just like, walks away. He's like, got you, fuck face. And it's like, oh my God.
I just want to give credit to Kevin Feige and Bob Iger. While this movie, when it was announced that the movie was going to be done, I was so concerned about them making a PG film and like dumbing it down and watering it down. Dude, I feel like Ryan Reynolds ratcheted up the candy of curse words and vileness just because of like being like very defiant towards Disney. And for Bob and Kevin to give them the green light, much credit goes to them, man, because they could have easily been like, oh no, we got to keep it consistent with the kids and all of that. Like, I'm glad that this is the opening now of keeping it like an R-rated factory of like films within Disney, to where, look, you kids want to watch, that's fine, but just know that this is a R rating. Go with your parents. So shout out to them keeping it, brand standard, man, with Deadpool.
And I also have to wonder, because obviously the Writers Guild strike happened and it halted a lot of the movie. Yeah. And the fact that Ryan could not at all improvise due to that strike. So it's like, I wonder how much of that script had already been greenlit prior to that strike. And then how much time did they have to maybe make changes post the end of that strike? You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, did they change things out of the aftermath of the strike? I don't know, but you're right. I can't believe that Kevin and Disney signed off on all these things, because nothing was off limits. Like, people, events in real life, the company, like the multiverse saga, like nothing was off limits. And the fact that it was greenlit either way, perfection. Like, I love it. I love it.
Well, in exchange for that green light, Ryan Reynolds is handing them a big bag of green cash. They're making a lot of money off this. So I think they'll be okay with the curse words on Disney Plus or their platform.
In one movie, I got flick my bean, fuck face, pegging. Like, this is stuff that you would never think of, like Disney even like allowing you to say. About 11 different references of cocaine use and cocaine names. Like, bro, like, bravo, Disney. Like, Walt Disney is turning his grave, and I fucking love it.
Yeah. Blind Al has so many cocaine references. Like, I didn't even catch the first one. One of them, it was towards the end. I forgot what she said. But when Deadpool and Wolverine come back into the apartment at the end,
right?
I forgot what she said, but that shit had me crying. It was like, I've never heard cocaine reference. I've never heard that.
I will
reference.
find it. I will find it and come back and tell you.
Please find that.
Yeah.
I'm shaking like an untamed vibrator. Like, what?
Like an angry vibrator. Yeah. She's like, Al, we have company. Yeah. I love her, like the fact that she's always like, I wish, she's like, I wish I were deaf, or, like, and then Ryan Reynolds is like, if you could smell the fear on my face, if you could hear the look on my face and smell the fear or whatever, like, they're like back and forth.
You would smell how sad I am.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
And make no mistake, Leslie Uggams she's a acting legend. If you watch any of her films from the 50s and 60s, they're historic films. Like, she helped usher in, like, diversity with mainstream films with white people. Like, she's a very, very prolific actress. And to see her at 81 make these films and like and just like, this is totally different from what she did before. And like, I watched some interviews, and like, she said she always had a dream of like just making like just vile shit, but with the limitations of black actors and actresses back in the day, it wasn't allowed. And so when Ryan Reynolds, who's a big Leslie Uggams fan, which is surprising to me, which I love this man even more now, and knowing the history of like black films back then, I had to have her in this film, and she said yes. And like, she's one of the best parts of this series.
Yeah. Yeah. And of like the Deadpool, crew from the first two movies, she gets more screen time than everyone else, basically. I mean, Vanessa, his former girlfriend obviously gets some run time, but the other ones don't really get a lot of run in this. And a lot of that's due because originally Disney didn't really want those characters to continue. They just wanted Deadpool. And Ryan Reynolds was like, no, we've got to have these people in here. And he actually made that a part of the story because these are the reason why he wants to save his world. The 10005 timeline is because of the 9 people in that photo that are his world. So I thought it was a good way to also it's kind of a meta thing where it's like, they want my character to go to their fancy 616 money-making universe, and I'm going to bring along my people or I'm not going to go, it's like kind of like that. So a lot of this stuff was really, really well done. And I did enjoy that those characters were, seen. They were kind of more cameos than some of the cameos. And moving on with the cameos, Chris Evans certainly wasn't a cameo, but it was a moment in this movie where I'm like, wow, all of the rumors that we heard, they're all going to happen. This is early in the film, and you're just like, wow, this movie is going to be amazing. And, I kind of thought Chris Evans was going to be in the film because of Free Guy. He makes a cameo in that movie, which is a Ryan Reynolds, Sean Levy film. And, yeah, definitely check that out if you're an MCU fan. If you haven't seen Free Guy, just look up Chris Evans Free Guy scene because it's worth checking out. But, from Chris Evans and his version of Johnny Storm to we get some other Resistance fighters in the Void. And Frank, I want to get your thoughts on. We get Jennifer Garner's Elektra, which we knew she was in the film. They actually mentioned that a couple of years ago whenever they were cast. They said she was going to return, which I thought maybe Ben Affleck would return as Daredevil. We'll get to that in a second. We get Elektra. We get Wesley Snipes as Blade, which I was totally surprised by because Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes do not get along because they were in Blade Trinity together. Ryan Reynolds was an up-and-coming actor, and Wesley Snipes did not like the fact that this young guy was kind of taking the time he was given and kind of, becoming the star of the movie. Wesley Snipes was not a fan of that. They obviously squashed their beef. Wesley Snipes is in the movie. And we also get Channing Tatum as Gambit. He was supposed to play Gambit for years. His movie was canceled because of the Disney acquisition of 20th Century Fox Films. He never got to play the character. And we finally get his version, which is obviously kind of a humorous take. Frank, tell me what you think about these 3, not cameos, but characters.
Nah, man, it was great. I think Blade was the most surprising one because, like you said, I was very aware of the beef that they had, mostly because of Wesley Snipes, like jealousy of like seeing a young man finally get some momentum in Hollywood. But very surprised by Blade, man. Elektra was great too, especially the Ben Affleck reference to Ben Affleck's Daredevil. I thought was crazy funny. And what's so crazy about it, Ben Affleck was on set a couple times with their kids. So to hear that line in there was really dope. When Fox greenlit initially the Gambit series of Channing Tatum, I was very concerned because I was like, does Channing Tatum have the ability to pull up a Cajun accent? And it was done with so much satire, I was like, you know what? Maybe he could have played Gambit. It's one of my favorite lines from him, man, was when he said, when they finally decided to team up to go out to go after Cassandra and the crew. Yeah. He's like, I don't know my daddy, but I'm sure I was shot out of his dick ready. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. Like who says that shit? I hope in some form or fashion, man, we do get him whenever they make new X-Men movies, if they do bring him in to play Gambit. Like he answered any concerns and questions I had about him playing the character. Just from a look standpoint and a dialect standpoint, even though the dialect was really fucked off, but in the film. But I looked all the cameos that became like mainstays in this movie. It was A1.
Yeah, and Channing Tatum was kind of bringing like a 21 Jump Street kind of version of Gambit to the big screen. And I mean, so many funny lines. I love when Deadpool, you can't understand that his deep, like Cajun Cajun stuff, and he's like, who is your dialect coach? The Minions? He's like, we're missing valuable exposition here. You know, like I love all that stuff.
He said when Gaiman first spoke, when he said Remy LeBeau and his nickname, he was like, "I'm sorry, I haven't seen Sling Blade in a while. Can you please repeat what you just said?"
Right. And then he's like, after Gambit says something, he's like, not a word, didn't hear a word, didn't get. Like, I don't know. I just love that stuff. Tristan, what'd you think about Wesley Snipes returning as Blade, Elektra, and then obviously Gambit's Channing Tatum as Gambit?
Is the God of Thunder visiting you, Justin? Good God.
No, that's me.
That would be.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah. As soon as I hit unmute, that thunder hit.
Damn, Thor's
like
upset.
it's like the fourth one I've heard over here. No, I thought the Wesley Snipes cameo would have gotten more like commotion in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I think it did last night. I'm not sure about today.
Yeah.
But yeah, like people went crazy. Channing Tatum. My theater went a little crazy for Channing Tatum, Elektra. I thought those were excellent. Hell, the X-23. Like I almost completely forgot about her. I have a slightly funny story. Like I saw a picture of them at a premiere. I was on Blake Lively IG. Don't ask me why.
Research for the pod. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so like I completely forgot about Logan, and I forgot what her name is.
Daphne Keane. Yeah.
Daphne King. So like Daphne King, yeah. So I'm like, I'm like, she looks familiar. Let me do a quick Google search, and I'm like, oh, she's 19. I was like, let me get away from that. X'd out of that very quickly. But the Wesley Snipes' Blade, obviously, I thought was the biggest one to me. I love Channing Tatum. I thought he pulled off that accent. I thought it was like, yeah, we know he was trying to do an accent, but we also know that this accent's supposed to be bad at the same time, and like he did that perfectly. Oh my God, when they were in the van or the car, and Deadpool just like he just started trying to translate like what he's really saying. that was hilarious. But the cameos also again crystallized for me how ignorant I am to so much of this stuff because I had no clue of that Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds had any static whatsoever. I remember a bunch of people in the audience laughed at the Daredevil joke, and I did not get it at all because I completely forgot. Oh, Daredevil. There's only one Daredevil in my brain.
Yeah. Like,
there's only one.
Listen, that's the one that matters most.
That's the one that matters. I was just gonna say the same thing.
There's only one Daredevil, and there will only be one true God. His name is Charlie Cox. So I didn't get a lot of that stuff, but like. Yeah, I could also tell that these cameos meant something just from the way that people reacted in the theater, the way that they, the production, like the direction, like kind of focused on, like how Wesley Snipes kind of walks in really slow. I'm like, oh shit, that's Blade, like that. Yeah, that's a relic of my childhood. So I thought the cameos were great, even if I did not know. I guess that's what makes the cameos great is that you don't even have to have the full context to understand that how big they were in the larger scheme.
Yeah, this is their way of. Go ahead, Frank. Go.
I am kind of nervous and concerned about what Wesley Snipes' Blade character said when they're going around the room. They're talking about not their variants, but like their stories. Yeah. He's like, I'm the only Blade that I'm always going to be the only Blade that ever matters. Yeah. Which I'm like, is that a nod of saying like the Mahershala Ali Blade movie is not going to come out ever? So is that going to be shelved?
They can't.
I think that's exactly what they were trying to joke on.
They can't get a director to stick. They've already gone through like 2 or 3, and they can't get a director to stick. So
the movie, yeah. So Blade, the Mahershala Ali Blade, is still on the books for November 7th, 2025. That's probably not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
However, from what I heard this weekend, it's probably going to happen after Secret Wars. So. If that's the case, if it gets pushed to 2027, 2028, maybe it doesn't happen at all. But at the time they filmed this, it was kind of a meta commentary on, your new Blade movie's having trouble, but also Deadpool kind of gives a look to the camera whenever he says, I'm the only Blade. I'm the only Blade. I'm the only person who'll ever be Blade or whatever. And Deadpool's kind of saying like, no, you're not. There's another guy. Like it's really however you want to interpret it. But again, great joke, but it also, like the part about saying, you're entering the MCU at a low point, kind of Marvel letting shots be taken at themselves. Like that's that's pretty big of them. Even though obviously it's going to pay off because Ryan Reynolds is one of the most entertaining people, one of the funniest people who's ever lived. Like, you got to leave your feelings at the door because he was going to, do whatever it takes to get a laugh. And if it means making fun of yourself or making fun of your company, so be it.
It's just very DC. It's just a very unlike DC variant behavior of Marvel to do this. Like, you have an Academy Award winner who is on the bench waiting for his movie to get a director, and you can't fucking find a director for Mahershala Ali. What are we doing? Like, figure this shit out. Get it done.
Frank, you could also say, like, hey, if it's not going to be the best thing possible, then maybe we should wait till we can make it the best possible. Because you look at the MCU the last 5 years since Endgame, I've liked a lot of the stuff, but a lot of people haven't. And a lot of it's because, hey, we've got to put out 3 or 4 movies a year. We've got to have 5 TV series a year. And like, we're just putting out so much out there. And it's like, maybe take your time and make it as good as possible. I do think they want to. What's that?
So what the fuck is Ryan Coogler doing right now? Like,
he just made a vampire movie with oh God, who's the actor? With Michael B. Jordan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And like, there was talk that they were possibly gonna work on Blade also, but I don't know where that is. And who knows? It may come back around to him if he wants it. He's also got some, Black Panther stuff.
Yeah, he's busy with the Wakanda series that's supposed to be coming on Disney Plus too. Like, that's been I read some stuff that's taking a lot of his time as well. Like, they're still in the writing phase of that. So
yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. But Brittany, I want to get your thoughts on all these big cameos that became characters in this story.
I was thrilled that we did not get Affleck as Daredevil. So thrilled.
Let me stop you real quick because, like Frank said, Ben Affleck was on the set, and I did think he was going to be in this movie because remember a year ago he was in a big multiversal movie also where he returned as Bruce Wayne, Batman in The Flash. Which, by the way, Brittany, side note, isn't this movie pretty similar to The Flash? I mean, this movie's way better, but this movie is similar to like the storyline, having to find an old, character that's a legend and trying to save your world. Very similar. Just saying. Go ahead.
You see Jesus over here, man.
I also said what I said. I'm glad we did not get Affleck. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't care for him as an actor. I don't care in what film he is in or is not in or rumored to be in. I don't care for the guy. Okay. So the whole, oh, sorry about Daredevil. And the response was, it's fine. Like, I love that because in real life, Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck are real life exes. So it's like, that to me is even greater than what it was. So it's fine. The Wesley Snipes appearance, fantastic. I screamed at that. And then I had a bigger reaction, of course, to Channing Tatum's Gambit, the references of, how in Elektra's and Blade's world that they're just kind of forgotten. They don't have a legacy or what have you. And then Gambit's all like, I don't even know, like, if they even know about me. Like, I don't even know if I was born here, which is such a great nod to the fact that his movie never even got up from the ground. So I thought that was a great, like shot at what was happening in real life.
So go ahead.
No, just overall, those quote cameos, but they're really characters, and those were characters that I actually cared about in this movie and in their fighting sequences. Really, I truly cared about Gambit because I really wanted to see the fighting style. I wanted to see the use of the cards and just all that kinetic energy that he wields to go boom, as he said. So, and also just the little banter that he had with Wolverine. I thought that was great. I loved it.
Our first ever live action Gambit. So that was cool. We got to see him.
So my question is, so in the film, Elektra and Blade, they talk about like how they got pruned and they didn't get to fight for the world or have a chance to protect their worlds.
Right.
Was that Paradox's people who did that? Or was that people out like prior to Paradox pruning these characters out of their worlds?
It's not clear. I think it probably led to believe it was Paradox because he sounds like he's going to destroy all these timelines that don't matter. Right. So it sounds like it was probably his TVA hunter.
That or that was all during the time when the TVA was actively like pruning timelines.
Right. Like
so
Loki season 1 or so. Yeah.
Or even long before that. Yeah. So it's very unclear. But the idea, the fact that they got sent to the void was because they don't play nice with TVA. You know, they fought against them and what have you, and that's why they're there. They didn't die with their timelines. So, which leads me to a different question, which I'll ask when we get to the end of the movie.
I want to shout out the big guy here in the chat mentioning about also how the big muscular dude in Free Guy is also the same guy who plays Juggernaut in this movie, and it's nice to mention Juggernaut because Juggernaut has the helmet on his head. I love when Deadpool's talking about like, oh, who else is in the void? Tell me Magneto, please be Magneto, and they're like, no, Magneto died. Fuck, that's like, well, what about his helmet? We know his helmet, like someone's got his helmet. She's like, no, she melted it. Fuck, like just the, every time he reacts that way. So now they have to go on this chase for this helmet to get the, to put on Cassandra to try to kill her or to try to control her. I love how, they, that it's definitely a MacGuffin, but it was a good way to like also work in another character. And, Juggernaut, this is like the third version of Juggernaut we've seen in these films. Obviously, the one from Deadpool 2 was like a cartoonishly massive one that was like bigger than almost like the Hulk, same size. But I did like this version. I liked it was more like, obviously as a real person, despite being like a 6'6", like muscled up dude. But I did like the fight scenes. But before that, let's talk about, we haven't, the one person we haven't really talked about much is Wolverine. And like, obviously huge part of this movie with Hugh Jackman returning. Frank, what did you think about Hugh Jackman's return and his acting in this film? I thought he really was a highlight in a movie full of highlights.
Gonna make an unpopular opinion about Hugh Jackman in this variation of Wolverine.
Okay.
The fighting style, the attitude, the vile behavior, this is more accurate of Logan in the comic books than Logan that we see in the Fox universe. In the Fox edition, in the Fox universe, he's more controlled. He's not as violent. He has to be pushed a little bit more. This one embraces violence. Like in the comic books, they have something called Berserker Rage, when he just goes to a blind rage and just fights violently. And like those scenes with Deadpool, when he's just going in, like that's the Wolverine that is depicted in the comic books. So I thought they did a great job of really like getting like the behavior, his personality, all of the unhingedness of what comes along with Logan in this variant. I thought he did a great job. I mean, outside of Wolverine 2, man, the Wolverine movie, I love him in everything. Like it's a scary thing for an actor, a new actor, when you embody such a popular character. And he talked about it in the credits, like they showed some behind the scenes about how nervous he was when he took on this mantle, because he's 6'1" or 6'2". He's a tall guy. He's Australian. Like he's bringing his own pizzazz to this character. And one thing about the comic book community, they're very unforgiving when you don't do a character right, or if you bring a certain pizzazz to a character and it doesn't stick. Right. And to be able to like not only create a different variant of like how Wolverine is, but for it to stick for as long as it has, and to become such a household name, and to like level up that role out of the comic books for as long as he has, he's a legend, man. Like he'll get a star. I mean, Hugh Jackman's a great actor. I know he does musicals. Like his range is unparalleled. But this role that he took on and made into his own, he should get a star just for this role. He should get 2 stars for the Wolverine role, and then the rest of his acting catalog over the last 25 years. He's been on the big films in America. So yeah, great job by him, man.
Frank, what'd you think about finally seeing the yellow suit and when he put the cowl on, we put the mask on?
I came just a little bit, just a little bit. It was. I had my sticky pants on for the last hour of that film. I was really, really happy. And then when you put the mask on, oh my God, bro!
He was like Deadpool right when the beginning of the movie where he put on the claws and he's like, I am soaking wet. That was Frank. Right
before the first time they fought, when Ryan Reynolds looks into the camera and says, "Nurse, Gary, put your
special sock."
Yeah, I'm like, special sock, bro. I'm raw dogging this shit. What the fuck you talking about? No sock needed. Let's go.
Awesome.
Oh my God. Tracy in the chat's like, oh my God, Frank, no. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement, y'all. Kim,
So Tristan, go ahead, Brittany.
No, go ahead. You can go to
No,
Tristan.
so I want to get your thoughts, Tristan, on the Honda Odyssey and how crucial it was in this film, specifically the fight scene between Deadpool and Wolverine, and actually the conversation, which I thought when Wolverine is telling Deadpool how worthless he thinks he is, that was like some of the best acting in the movie. I thought the movie was great all around, but like that part there is like, that's why you get Hugh Jackman. He not only looks like the character, but he's a great actor. And that scene right there before they fight, which is one of the better fights in the movie, really showed like, this is why you got to have this guy. What'd you think about that scene?
I mean, could totally agree on just the acting performance, just like the seriousness of the acting performance. For me, someone who's not a comic book reader, when I think Wolverine, I'm going to think Hugh Jackman, right? From the X-Men movies, from Logan. I automatically think him, like he's a standard for me. And this movie further elevates him as a standard for Wolverine and what it should be. Even though, like you said, like the Soni version of it is a lot more sanitized. And we get, from what I've heard from other people, this is a much more accurate description or portrayal of Wolverine that he's doing in this movie. But he's a standard. And like this whole performance really crystallized that. As far as the Honda Odyssey, like the Deadpool jokes about the Honda Odyssey were like A+, number one. But like, yeah, like they used the fuck out of that van for that fight.
Yeah.
Like every inch of that van was used. Like the seatbelts were just as much, like the van was just as much of a character as, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman was. Like, yeah, that was one of the better fight scenes because again, we look with two dudes who can't die and they know that. So like, they're able to like just kind of throw the kitchen sink, like the shootings. Deadpool shooting that dude like at least 6 times in his ribs, like like stabbing him over and over. Like that was a great fight scene, and yeah, that van played a big role in that.
Yeah, they're fighting to
the Honda Odyssey fucks hard.
Yeah,
yeah, you don't need a dick. Like that's genius, dog. What the fuck?
And you gotta love the storyline because Wade is a used car salesman, and like he detests the Honda Odyssey. He hates the Honda Odyssey with a passion, and then he ends up with one. Brittany, what did you think about that fight scene? And then we can transition to how they got the Honda Odyssey. But what did you think about the fight scene?
Oh, all the fight scenes between Deadpool and Wolverine were great. I'm going to go further back to their first fight scene when they enter the void. And because you kind of think maybe they're going to fight in the bar scene where Deadpool goes and finds the quote worst Wolverine, brings him to the TVA, they get pruned, they're in the void. And seeing that 20th Century Fox logo, half buried was fantastic. And seeing Wolverine, full on claws out, and he grounds them, into the dirt, and then he takes off running on all fours. I was like, whoa, this is like animalistic, like truly Wolverine animal. And I was taken aback. I'm like, this is something, of course, we never saw prior to this adaptation of Wolverine. And I was here for it. Like just the ferocity between the two, of course. And then knowing that the katanas that Deadpool has are now adamantium. So I mean, you're on an even level playing field here, y'all. And so like those fight scenes was great. The choreography was so creative on how just they would bounce back up, to continue fighting. And yeah, they're immortals, right? They are not going to be able to really kill one another. And then of course with the Wolverine just unleashing on Deadpool with his words, saying that not only are you just like a joke, like you really don't matter, like ultimately. And it struck a nerve. Deadpool's like, I'm gonna fight you now. And Wolverine just laughs. He's like, oh really? You think? Boom, in the nose, bleed, and it's on. It's absolutely on. Deadpool flying out of the sunroof, like just like that killed me. That absolutely killed me. And then seeing them just asleep, knocked out in the Odyssey, and Deadpool is just like wrapped up in all of the what's left of the seatbelt. I'm just like, really? Like, really, this is what happens. But yeah, like their fight scenes together are incredible. The fight scenes, period, are incredible. Like, I don't know how much time goes into just figuring out how many people are going to be involved, what sort of creative ways they're going to kill people. But damn, like it pays off in the end. It got a little much, especially when they're fighting the Deadpool Corps, but it was great. It's absolutely great.
Yeah, no, it was a very, very entertaining part of the film. Now, how did they get that Honda Odyssey? Well, they got that from one of the many Deadpool variants that are in the void. Part of the Deadpool
Yes.
Corps, we
Yes.
meet Nice Pool and then Dog Pool. Frank, what'd you think about those two characters and obviously Deadpool's love for Dogpool?
For it to be a Deadpool movie, you know, there has to be a break where Ryan's not wearing the prosthetics and all of that. Like,
Yeah,
but in this edition, like of Nice Pool, funny as fuck. Like, just hilarious. Like, and like how Dogpool, I mean, how Nice Pool kept on losing his dog. Like, for one, I want to know why is he in the void? Like, because they say a lot of times like people fought against, they fought back, you know, trying to stop the universe being pruned. He just seems so fucking nice. Like, why would you prune him of all people? But I loved it. The dog with the long fucking tongue, like that. The fight scenes were great. The bloodier the better. The grossest part of that movie was him watching that dog lick Ryan's fucking face. That shit was so gross. Like I couldn't get past that. But cause I have my dog and he'll never look me, I'll never let him look me in the face. So seeing that was just nightmarish to me. But I thought Nice Pool was cool. I thought the random break of the fourth wall later on in the film when he's trying to mimic what Prime Deadpool is doing when he goes the proposal. He's like, "What the fuck? That's what you think I do? Like, what the fuck? Like that shit was hilarious. That's one of my favorite lines from the movie. Out of the many lines I saw, that was so fucking funny. How he just totally fucked up that fourth wall.
And then he's the only Deadpool that doesn't regenerate. Of all damn Deadpools to like befriend, that's the one that does not regenerate. Like, who would have ever thought that? And the most Canadian out of the
overly
whole lot.
friendly Canadian with long hair. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, his little ear huggy here on the, you know, cartilage. Yeah, he's like, oh, you know, you leave this dog alone for 1 minute and she's off looking for a new papa. And I was just like,
I love the foreshadowing. He asked him for the dog. He's like, over my dead body. Or he asked him for the guns.
Yeah.
Yes,
over
my dead body.
Yeah.
And then Prime Deadpool like finally gets Dogpool, you know, in his universe and holds her. And here comes Nice Pool. And it's like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. It's like,
yeah. Speaking of the other Deadpool core members, let's run through them. You have Lady Pool, which we found out was voiced by Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds' wife. There was a lot of chatter that it might be Taylor Swift or someone else. The one disappointment I had in the movie is the fact that we didn't get her unmasked in the film to see who it was under the mask. You had to learn from the credits that it was Blake Lively. We also got Cowboy Pool, who was voiced by Matthew McConaughey. You had Kid Pool and Baby Pool, which were two of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's children, which
are you serious?
Fun. Yeah, considering that a Kid Pool is like, you know, if I ask for your opinion, I want you to take, you know, Wolverine's dick out of your mouth or whatever. Like, that's his daughter. His like
Unhinged. Was that James? Yeah. Was that James? I think she's the oldest.
It's Inez is the.
Oh, Inez. Okay, yeah.
Like, he's the coolest dad ever. Allow your kids to curse and say that. That's that. I didn't know that was his kids.
We also
the baby was his youngest.
Yeah,
that was just born.
Born. That's the joke where Nice Pool's like, yeah, you know, you got to meet Lady Pool. She just had a baby, and just like, you know, like that was like a meta joke about Blake Lively about how she looks after giving birth, like what, less than a year ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I saw her at Super Bowl. She had a baby. I didn't know she had a baby that young. She looked, dude. Yeah. Tristan, I watched that Super Bowl this past year about 4 or 5 times. I always fast forward to the part with Blake Lively and Taylor Swift are in the booth. I'm like, God damn, body's ridiculous. She just got a fucking baby. That's crazy.
Yep.
They have 4 kids. The Reynolds brood.
4
And then Headpool is Nathan Fillion.
Right.
Which was
from the Nate show?
From the what?
From that Nate show on HBO? That is that Nate?
No, that's Nathan. Somebody else. No, Nathan Fillion is.
He was in Firefly.
Yeah, he's going to be a Green Lantern in the Superman movie that's coming out next year. You've seen
him. He's also on a network TV show right now.
It's like Hot Show, like
Rookie or something like that. Yeah.
He was in that show. What was it like? Castle.
With Channing Tatum's ex-wife, actually.
Yeah, whatever that show is. He's been in stuff. You've seen him before. He was in Guardians 3 also. He was one of the villains of Guardians 3. We also got a nod to Ryan Reynolds' soccer team, Wrexham. We had the Wrexham Deadpool
the Welsh
jersey.
flag.
Yeah, but also, interesting enough, Ryan Reynolds co-owns that team with Rob McElhenney from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Rob McElhenney had a cameo that was in this movie that was cut from the movie. He was going to play a TVA agent, and Ryan cut it from the movie. And if you watch Welcome to Wrexham, which is the documentary series on FX about the team, which I recommend, it's a great show. They made it. There was a part in the movie in the show where when Deadpool was filming, Rob went for his to do his cameo, and then Ryan joked. I thought he was joking that he cut the cameo from the movie, but then he actually did cut the cameo from the movie. So
why?
Very, very funny stuff. Yeah, I don't know, but I think we might see the McElhenney cut later on with Rob returning. But anyway, great stuff. Tristan, I want to get your thoughts on who's your favorite member of the Deadpool Corps.
Lady Deadpool.
Lady Pool, yeah.
Since 2006.
Don't ask him why.
Don't ask why.
Gotcha. Brittany, do you have a favorite of the Corps?
Yes, it's Dogpool. Mary Poppins, aka
Poppins,
Peggy. Yeah. Like that is the ugliest, fuggliest dog I think I've ever seen in my life. But like, kudos to this dog being in this big of a movie. And Peggy was actually whatchamacallit, voted Britain's ugliest dog. And
2 years in a row. Yeah.
2 years in a row. But hey, joke's on everyone else because this dog is in like the most popular superhero movie of all time, I would say, or one of them. And in case those are out there wondering what kind of breed this dog is, it is a mix of a pug and a Chinese crested dog. So thus the appearance of the hair, the skin, and then the pug-like snout. So and extremely, I don't know why this dog has an extremely long tongue. It's very concerning, but yeah, love Dogpool, and I'm now referring to Luna as Dogpool from here on out.
That's fair. Moving on to the movie, let's just get to the end of the movie. Frank, what did you think about how the film ended? How Deadpool was going to sacrifice himself to save his universe to save the universe, but also he didn't want the worst quote unquote Wolverine to die because he kind of tricked the guy into joining him by, he gave him an educated wish. That's what he said, when he said like, hey, if you help me out, the TVA not only can they save my world, but they could probably save your world as also. What did you think about how they had to kind of team up to save the world? And when you have two characters who can't die, I guess that's the answer. They can't die, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tristan said it earlier. Ryan does a great job of like infusing like serious moments and breaking up those serious moments with like jokes and like unseriousness. And it was a play of the whole movie, right? Like him aspiring to be more, aspiring to like not just be a hero, but to get out of this funk that he's been in since the last Deadpool film of like not aspiring to do anything. And to be that sacrificial lamb, and getting that team up with Wolverine to pretty much stop their world from cratering, along with all other worlds from cratering with the Time Ripper, was great, I think. And a payoff later on in the film was when Deadpool says that Wolverine has filed a shape since the divorce. And then the payoff you get when they're saving the pretty much all the multiverses, when Wolverine's costume just fragments and like he's like, again, Hugh Jackson's 55, guys.
He is. Yeah.
50 fucking 5. And like when you see him shirtless and like he's ripped as fuck, and like though Deadpool looking over at his abs, like, okay, I was wrong. Like it was a perfect payoff to a joke earlier in the movie, and I thought that the ultimate team up of them like literally like teaming up as a tandem to save the world or worlds was just a perfect homage to the theme of the movie.
Yeah, no, I thought that was very well done, being that it was like this team up that Deadpool been waiting for forever, and then they actually had to team up to create this circuit to, disarm the Time Ripper and to foil Cassandra's plan of basically destroying every world, and then she would just be the queen of the void, which she already was, but the void would be all that would remain. Tristan, what do you think about how the movie ended with them having to team up?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was perfectly encapsulated. One of the things of like, it's kind of this, what's the word? Delayed teamwork, like obviously both of them have different like traumatic events that they're trying to work through. Both of them are used to like kind of going at things alone. Like that's even referenced in the interview that Wade Wilson does with Happy, which is like, hey, have you ever worked with a team? Like they don't, both of them have, bad experiences with, teammates or working within a team. So like Deadpool, his whole thing is like, I want to matter in this particular way. Like I want to be the one to save. Both of them are trying to convince each other why they should be the one. Deadpool sneaks in, kind of ambushes Wolverine to get in to like do the saving. But he realized he wasn't going to be able to do it. Right. And credit to Logan, who, is still dealing with the traumatic event of leaving behind other X-Men in a time of need. And like he stayed persistent, he stayed with it. And he came in and offered that absolutely much needed helping hand at the end. So that they could, like, again, that encapsulates what so much of the themes of the movie and just themes of superhero movies that at least in the MCU, where they try to create these dynamic heroes, not just I was born a superhero, I've always been a superhero, I know my purpose. Like, no, like these are people and they go through like traumatic things and it affects like their behavior going forward. So like you always have a decision to make. Like, am I gonna leave and just kind of let this, this play out? Or am I gonna like really be what is needed in the moment? And shout out to Logan, coming through in the clutch. Last 5 seconds on the clock, because the world and these different timelines was completely fucked had he not done that. And I think with Deadpool, like he just recognizes limitations. Like hopefully that's you recognizing your limitations. Like I want to be Marvel H. Christ, I want to be Marvel Jesus, but even Jesus needed help. You know what I'm saying? So I loved it. It was heartwarming.
Yeah.
Seeing them, I thought they were gonna like hold hands or some shit to do it. But it was great to see.
And Brittany, I like the fact that it seems like Wolverine's sticking around in Deadpool's timeline so that they can be ready for Secret Wars or maybe another Avengers film too.
Yeah, because apparently you need a Logan in your universe in order to keep it alive. And so now it seems that this Logan, this quote worst Wolverine, is the new anchor being for Deadpool's 10005 timeline. So yeah, it seems like he's there to stay. Where we're gonna see them again is yet to be revealed. But I do have some questions in terms of the ending because now that the TVA, of course, is aware of Paradox's involvement with all of this, of course, Cassandra is obliterated. And we don't have to worry about her trying to bring the void back into play like this. B-15 has a very awkward kind of moment for us, the audience, with Sugar Bear, aka Peter Pool, aka Peter. So it seems like maybe something could happen between them. But my questions are as follows: what happens to the rest of the Deadpool core? Are they here to stay as well, or were they sent back to the void, or are they, sent back to their respective timelines or not? The other thing too, when Deadpool talks to B-15 and says, hey, like I couldn't have been able to do all this without some help from people who were left behind in the void, that their timeline forgot about them. Like, can you help them out? So we eventually will see Laura, X-23, who is now living in the same timeline as Deadpool and now Wolverine. Does that mean that Elektra, Blade, and even Gambit, are they put back in their timelines, or are they also going to be in Deadpool's timeline? You know what I mean? Because we know that this timeline is not part of the 616. Like, he visited the 616 when he was trying to join the Avengers, and yes, he's known, but what does that mean for those characters that we saw in the void? Like, I'm just curious. Maybe that could be answered in future installments. Maybe it won't be. But those were just sort of things I thought about, like, at the ending of this movie, because it was great. It was a great kind of thing, because Paradox said that whoever is going to be like this bridge between the matter and antimatter, like, your body will not be able to handle it. You're going to die, period. But we get Marvel Jesus and Wolverine, and that doesn't happen, right? Yeah. They survive, and spectacularly, may I say. Whew, Wolverine, goddamn. But anyway, yeah, it's listening to Goo Goo Dolls' Iris, you know, when they're slow walking into the frame, and it's like, and I don't want the world to see, you know, I was just like, oh my God, yes, I love that song. And then the reaction of the two TVA members, like, and then the woman, she's like, oh, doing fine. And I was like, oh, lady, get your hands away, get your eyeballs away. But like, God, the sense, I'm going all over the place, but anyway.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Those are my questions. What happens to Deadpool Corps, and then what happens to these other characters that were in the void that helped them get out?
So I think that I can say that all those characters are going to be available for future use. It's not really made clear. I don't think any of us are going to know exactly where those characters are, but I think that, like, for example, like Wesley Snipes' Blade, he'll be in Avengers Secret Wars. I think Elektra will be in Secret Wars. I think that possibly even Channing Tatum will be in Secret Wars. I do believe that. And of course, X-23. As far as the Deadpool Corps, I think it's just like, you know, Dogpool will appear because Dogpool's still with Deadpool. Maybe one of the other ones will pop up, but I think it's just kind of like if they need a gag or something in one of the future Deadpool movies, or, you know, maybe a quick thing in one of the Avengers films. So, Frank, do you have any thoughts on that? Anything different than what I said, or?
No, I think when Elektra and Blade are talking about finishing their story and not having a chance to defend the world, I think I assume that B-15 and the rest of the TVA are going to put them back in their respective worlds to where they can continue on being heroes in those respective worlds. Something that caught my attention was X-23 being in the main timeline. Well, not main timeline, but in the 1/5 is it 5 timeline?
Yeah, 10005.
Yeah, that timeline. Because I know there was, after Logan, they were greenlighting a X-23 series before Fox got bought out. So for me, that's perfect placement. I don't think anything was wasted in this movie to show Laura next to Wolverine in that closing scene at the table. Tells me that she will be used for future use, and hopefully they may continue. I'm hoping continue on the story of X-23, because she's such a popular character in the comic books now, especially after when Wolverine died in the comic books. She kind of took on the mantle for a little bit, and fans really embraced her. And Daphne Keane has played a great job. And like, I don't want this to be lost in the sauce too. She was 11 when Logan came out. Yep. She's now 19 now, so it's been about 8 years. It didn't miss a beat with her. You know, when you grow up, 7 years is a long time to reprise a role, especially as a child. Like you're going through puberty, you're trying to find yourself as an actor or actress. To not miss a beat and to kind of add on to that role, especially in the scene when she's talking to Logan at the campfire, like, you know, like, without you, I wouldn't have had a life. Like I was able to have a life and grow up. And like it sounded like, damn, like she really like off screen, she really grew up. She really became this hero that's fighting for a higher purpose. And to not miss on that, and to like pretty much not just pick up where you left off, but like to add to that character after so long being off screen as a young kid, that it's I don't want that to be lost in sauce by how great of a job she did in this film.
No, I agree. She was great. I mean, and we just watched Logan again last week. We were talking about it. We did a rewatch of it, and I mean, even as an 11-year-old, she was like a standout part of that movie. And the fact that she, like they described her in this film, that she was like a more ferocious, smaller version of Wolverine. The fact that she has the claw, on each foot, and like, she has the two in her hands and the one on her feet. Like, she's vicious. I mean, she's the one who takes down Juggernaut. Like, Juggernaut's the biggest dude in this movie, basically, and she
Adios, pendejo.
yeah, she cuts him off at the ankles, and I mean, his death is pretty gruesome. No, she did a great job. It was a definitely, and that's a character we're going to see more of. I mean, let's be honest. Like, and she's already, she was a part of that recent Star Wars series, The Acolyte. So she's in the Disney business. She's like in their pipeline already. So we're going to see more of her. I would almost guarantee. Tristan, Brittany referenced the music a little bit ago. Was there a favorite needle drop for you in this moment? Because there were a ton of needle drops and a ton of great moments that music obviously aided.
I mean, obviously, NSYNC at the beginning.
Yeah.
I do like the T.I. Bring 'Em Out.
Yeah.
In the middle. Yeah, man. Don't want the world to see me. That might have been my favorite music drop of the.
I love Iris. I love that
movie.
song.
Love that song. So yeah, that's another thing my wife mentioned when we were walking out. She's like, "Hey, the soundtrack was excellent."
Yeah.
So like that's one thing I want to remember. So yeah, soundtrack A+. I honestly wouldn't expect anything different. Like Ryan Reynolds is around like my age. I want to say like around 39.
He's like 40. No, he's like 47.
He's like 47.
Yeah.
Oh shit, never mind. But yeah, that's millennial. So like that whole era, he's tapped into. So yeah, I wouldn't expect anything different. But absolutely love the music.
Yeah. Brittany, did you have any? Go ahead.
Yes, I did. Of course, I loved how, because this is so meta, that The Greatest Showman was incorporated into the radio playing when that big fight scene in the Honda was happening. Hugh Jackman was in The Greatest Showman. He lobbied for that movie to be made for so many years, and it was only appropriate to make reference to the fact that Hugh has had a Broadway career or a musical career of some kind, because at some point, even in The Void with Cassandra's Lair, that Deadpool makes reference to Wolverine saying like, "I will have this man sing the Music Man without any warm-ups." And it's just, it's just too funny to me, making that sort of reference altogether. But all of the music in general, the one that absolutely sent me truly, because this is one of my favorite songs from this artist that was not so well known at the time, is Avril Lavigne's "I'm With You."
Yeah.
And that song playing as they're making their way to the borderlands, and you could just start hearing it play, ever so softly. And then it's like, "It's a damn cold night." I was like, I love that song. My 14-year-old self came out again.
Yeah, definitely like a mid 2000s song too, like a perfect.
It
kinda
was.
Yeah.
It was like 2003. Because
Okay.
I did see her at the Roxy. This is when she was doing her club tours, guys. This is nothing questionable. If you're from Houston, you know what the Roxy is. But anyway, I did see her at that age. So it just sent me back to my preteen days, or my teenage days. It was great.
Yeah, no, it's great stuff. Hey, Frank, I want to ask you about this. We're talking about the music, and I want to get your thoughts on the other songs. But like, I don't know about you, but like, I've seen all those 20th Century Fox movies, and the fact that they did that during the credits, they did like this tribute to those films, and they played that Green Day song "Time of Your Life," which is like maybe the most montage song in the history of the world. I gotta say, I got kind of emotional, and like, I don't love any of those movies. I mean, some of the X-Men movies are great, legitimate, like Logan, X2, Days of Future Past. These are awesome movies, but like for the most part, these are not the greatest films. But the way they shot it, and they're showing Chris Evans as a young kid, like all this stuff, like, and like you said, Hugh Jackman talking about his experience about being a nobody and then basically becoming a megastar because of this role. I got kind of emotional. What'd you think about that stuff?
Yeah, it's funny because like it seemed like to me Ryan Reynolds gave more homage to all the Fox movies than Fox did. Like when
he did.
Fox got bought out, there was no like tribute tour with a lot of these renowned characters and movies. It was kind of like, okay, well, we cashed out. Bye. We're gonna holla. So for Ryan Reynolds to do what he did to have that in the film and in the credits, I thought it took me through my childhood, because I was to my high school and college when a lot of the movies came out, and like I forgot about I'm not gonna romanticize and say all these movies were great. A lot of them weren't great, but the nostalgia and the excitement of like these movies coming out, like being a kid, reading the comic books, watching the cartoons, and like, saying to myself as a kid, like, man, I remember having a long conversation with my uncle. I was like 12, 13 years old. And he was like, man, it would be so dope if these movies became, live cinematic feature films. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think they'd be able to get the CG right with a lot of these movies and characters and action scenes. I don't think we have the technology put in place to make that happen. And so that was literally like 5 years prior to X-Men coming out in 2000. Like I remember it like it was yesterday how I felt when I saw the trailer and just being excited about these movies becoming part of like a live culture. So I'm not gonna romanticize it, but the nostalgia of the excitement of these movies coming out was something I'll never forget.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. And something else about this movie, you talk about Ryan Reynolds kind of paying tribute to the Fox universe, because a lot of people thought before, like, oh, what they'll do is they'll have Deadpool kill the Fox universe. But like I always thought that was gonna be too mean, and especially given Kevin Feige's role, because he got his start in that Fox universe. He was an assistant to Laura Schuler Donner. That like he used to get this woman's food and like walk her dog during his lunch breaks. And then like you see in the movie, like they're both executive producers on this film. And obviously he's had this meteoric rise to being like probably the most powerful person in Hollywood. So like I knew they were gonna do some kind of tribute, but like I thought this was done really, really well for, again, movies that did not stick with the audience. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like, Chris Evans was a superhero before Captain America, but he was like, those movies weren't super successful, but he was. Obviously, the X-Men movies were successful, and that's what we'll always remember is Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy and Ian McKellen and all these people. But I thought it was a really, really nice touch and a great way to like put a button on that universe. Not to say that those characters won't return. Some of them, obviously, they will, but to kind of like pay tribute, and then as you're moving to the MCU, because in this movie, Deadpool talks about going to the MCU more than actually being in the MCU, which I thought was appropriate, because we're going to get all the great crossover stuff with him and the other characters, I think, in the future movies. But really, really strong way to end the film. And as we're kind of wrapping up here with this movie, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to mention? Any funny line or something that you want to talk about? Tristan, was there something we didn't mention you want to get to?
Not that I can think of. I think we pretty much touched on most of, at least, of the standout lines. I should have wrote some down. Frank told me he was gonna like write some of these down. I was like, I'm not. Team USA was playing at the same time. I had to finish that out. But no, I think we got pretty much all the major points of the movie. Like I said, really enjoyed it. If nothing else, like it was just an enjoyable 2 hours. I wouldn't mind watching the third, fourth time. Fight scenes were great. Like time of your life. Somebody mentioned it. That's another one of my faves. Like you said, it is a montage classic, but loved it. Happy to talk about it. Damn near 2 hours like that. That's when you know something's really good, when you can't wait to talk about it. So no, I think we pretty much got everything.
Brittany, is there any line you want to mention or something that we didn't talk about?
Buckle up on lines, y'all. My goodness gracious. Here in the chat, we had a couple of people who have mentioned some of my favorites. Big Guy said the reference regarding Will Smith's comment at the Oscar was brutal. And that line is, "Get my country's name out of your fucking mouth." And also my sword. That was hilarious. Talk about that being meta. Before I get to the other one that was mentioned here in the chat, another one was, Paul Rudd finally aged.
Yeah, that was great.
That was pretty good. When Deadpool is listening to Paradox and the proposal of what was going to happen. He was going to matter. He was going to join the 616. Deadpool's like, 1 second, runs off to the camera. He's like, come here, come here. And then he's like, suck it, Fox. I'm going to Disneyland. That was hilarious. Like all these breaking the fourth walls, what have you. But I think the absolute favorite one, and this is one that Rahib had mentioned, I'm just going to give you the direct quote, was after they land, he and Wolverine land on that damn Honda Odyssey in the lot. The kids were like, holy shit, that's Deadpool. Yeah, that's Wolverine. Yeah, that's Wolverine. Damn right it is. Disney brought him back. They're going to make him do this till he's 90.
Yeah. And he just might. Who knows? Yeah.
He just might. He just might. I mean, if he continues continue doing what he does physically, yes. Give me more shirtless scenes, that is. But yeah, there's a lot, of course. You know,
tons of stuff.
There's tons of lines, but really overall this movie, I mean, we enjoyed it so much that we're like, at the end of the day, okay, you're buying tickets to go watch it again tomorrow morning, right? Like, this is what we're doing. So
we all saw it multiple times.
Oh my God, we did.
It doesn't happen with many movies. I don't think. Yeah.
Not in theaters, especially for me, because I really don't like going to the movies anymore. I don't like going them on premiere days or at night anymore. But for me to like want to go see this movie again is like in less than 24 hours time is rare. So bravo to Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, maximum effort. My God. Yeah. Y'all fucking did it. Let's fucking go.
Awesome. Frank, any final thoughts or stuff we didn't talk about you want to mention?
Just some of the lines, man, I wrote down over the last couple times I watched the movie. Like, I have a black belt in Karan. Like that shit was hilarious. Like, get your special sock out, nerds. It's about to get good. Yeah. Get your mind out of my pants. I'm telling Blake. That was hilarious. The Blade reference. I don't like when Blake said, I don't like you. And Ryan's like, you never did. Like, I was like, oh,
that's shit. Because of that movie. Like,
they were there with it. Okay. Man. So one of my favorite lines is from Cassandra Nova when she has the helmet on and they're trying to take it off. And she's like, I'm gonna boil you at an anatomic level while I flick my bean to your box set. Like, what?
No, to the
it was
India
an
box
India
set.
box set.
Yeah.
In your box set? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
She's listening to that music, and then Deadpool's like, "There's an India box set," you know? Like,
oh my God! And then like, you're gonna yell at my fucking universe that just come again next time in my ears. Like, it just goes on and on and on, man. Like, just constant. And I don't believe Ryan Reynolds. I think he's bullshitting. I don't believe all these jokes are written. I think he's stuck in some improvs doing shooting some of these scenes. Like, they just seem too creative and like too on the spot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did half the movie was filmed last May through July. Then the strike happened. They shot the rest of it in November to January of this year, you know, from November of 23 to January. So when they came back in November, they were able to adjust the script and do whatever. So I'm sure there was some improvisation like in the movie. There's probably was a ton of it, but not while the strike was happening. They're not supposed to do that. So
I've got one last scene I want to share, and then we can wrap it up because I know we have other important things to talk about. Yeah. The scene leading up to the Wolverine Sabretooth fight, right? Because we got the Sabretooth from the original 2000 X-Men movie, and you know, Deadpool's like time out, you know, and he's like, you look ridiculous. He's got katanas sticking through him and baby knife, you know, getting him ready, hyping him up, He's like, okay, you got this. And then Wolverine just looks at Deadpool. He's like, shut the fuck up. And Deadpool's like, oh, like the expression and just the backing out. And he goes, I'm a big fan. Like, just like, you got this. I'm a big fan. I'm like, oh my God, like, talk about fangirling at its finest. Like, just, it was so good. Like, I don't know, their whole interaction, the fact that these two actors have been friends for more than like 15 years. They've always wanted to do this movie together. The stars finally aligned. Hugh finally said, hey, I want to be Wolverine again. Ryan, let's make this happen. He called up Ryan and said, hey, let's finally make this happen. I'm glad we've been given this gift. It's truly incredible.
Yeah. Because originally the movie was going to be called Deadpool and Friend. This is not a joke. This was what.
No, I saw that interview recently. Yes.
Yeah. And honestly, Ryan Reynolds was not kidding whenever he released that video a couple years ago where he said he couldn't figure out the story until Hugh Jackman joined. They legitimately could not figure out what they wanted to do with the story. They had all these different versions, but none of them kind of worked. And then when Hugh Jackman said, "I'm in," it definitely unlocked the script. They figured it out and they created this movie, which Brittany, you mentioned their friendship. Their friendship began on a movie called X-Men Origins Wolverine, which we talked about a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago now. Not a great movie, but it was the introduction of Deadpool to the silver screen. Obviously not the Deadpool that we know in these movies, but they, in those movies, from that movie to the Deadpool movies, you see how many times he referenced Logan and Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. And then they finally paid it off with this movie. And this is, one of the greatest team up movies in the history. Like, we're talking about like buddy cop movies, like whatever you want to say, 48 Hours or that kind of stuff. Like, this is like one of those kind of buddy cop movies just in a superhero genre that it totally delivered. And the final thing I wanted to mention about the movie is after they defeat Cassandra Nova and save their timeline or save Deadpool's timeline, Deadpool's like, "Oh, you want to get something to eat? Yeah, I can eat." And they go, they're eating shawarma. And he's like, the Avengers discovered shawarma. I thought that was a great line to tie it back to the MCU, the Avengers. And speaking of the Avengers, from the first Avengers movie, which that's where the shawarma scene came from, to the next Avengers movie, let's talk about what we found out yesterday from Comic-Con. Major, massive, insane news. I kind of figured it was going to happen, and it actually did this time. Marvel came back to Comic-Con after not being there last year. They came back in a massive way. And so now we learn that the Russo brothers will in fact return to direct Avengers Doomsday, May 2026. That's the new title for it. Used to be called Avengers Kang Dynasty. Jonathan Majors is out. I guess Kang is out also. New title, Avengers Doomsday, May 2026. And they're also going to direct Avengers Secret Wars, which is supposed to come out May 2027. Honestly, that could have been big enough news anyway. Like just the fact the Russo brothers are coming back, the fact that it's called Doomsday, obviously a reference to Dr. Doom. But then we found out that Dr. Doom will be played by Robert Downey Jr., which is just insane. The fact that the the MCU's greatest hero, Iron Man, will now be potentially the MCU's greatest villain. And as Robert Downey Jr. unmasked during a really, really cool, demonstration on the stage, he said, "New mask, same task." Frank, what do you think about RDJ returning to the MCU as a villain? Frank. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know how to feel about this. I don't. I mean, are we running out of people to play characters in movies? I don't know. I mean, there's multiple variants of where Tony Stark fails as Iron Man. He takes on the Doom mantra, and then there's another thing, Earth 102.99, where Victor Von Doom dies and his consciousness goes into Tony and he becomes Dr. Doom. I kind of wanted to see an actor play that role and if you're gonna bring Tony back as Iron Man, or bring him back in Secret Wars as Iron Man. I don't know how I feel about him coming back as a villain after playing this iconic character for as long as he has. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they'll do a good job doing it. I mean, once they film it, I don't know how you're gonna make this make sense. Like, is he with the Chris Evans thing? That was Fox, so that character was never brought into MCU. Right. So it made sense when he was when he took on the role of Captain America. It's the same fucking MCU. It's just the same fucking universe. This is Disney. It's a Disney property, and him coming. I don't know. I don't feel great about it. But I mean, if they come up with a story that makes sense, I guess. But it's are we supposed to watch it as fans and be like, "Oh, he's not Iron Man"? The brand recognition of who he played for as long as he has. Yeah. This is not Jimmy Chan playing like a Marvel soldier and becoming, Medusa Ogre from Eternals. This is a major character that he played, going to another major character who is one of the most famous villains, not just in Marvel, but in comic book history. So I don't feel good about it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know how I feel about it, but I don't feel great about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Frank, you bring up a good point. We're not sure if it's going to be a Tony Stark variant becomes Dr. Doom, or if it's just going to be the same actor that played Tony Stark is going to now play Victor Von Doom in another universe, which will be the Fantastic Four universe, by the way, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Tristan, what are your thoughts on Robert Downey Jr. returning to the MCU?
My only real commentary is I saw somebody say this: if it works, it works, it could be the equivalent of Kobe Bryant getting both 8 and 24 retired.
Great sports correlation. There you go. Yeah.
I always got to make the sports correlation. I understand why it's a controversial choice. I guess for me, and y'all know I'm not a big fan of this, but like, if we're going to keep playing with like this multiverse and these variants, like you open the door for these things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then apparently there's like comic book precedent for like, you know, the same people doing different characters, or, you know, some of these deaths not necessarily sticking because they happen in different universes and so on. So like at this point, man, you've opened the door to so much of this shit that for me, I don't care. Like, okay, Robert Downey Jr. is back. Robert Downey Jr. is back. You know what I'm saying? Logan isn't fully dead in this universe. Logan isn't fully dead in this universe. Whatever. So if it works, I think it'll be great. I don't see why it wouldn't work. I mean, I think he's gonna kill the role.
Yeah.
Like if we all fully believe that, then oh well.
Yeah. No, I great points. Especially, I mean, we just talked about Deadpool and Wolverine, where you're having you have a variant of Wolverine who returns after Logan died in the Logan film. So, no, great point. Brittany, what are your thoughts about this?
So I've kind of said this, and I'm just going to stick with it. Bringing back RDJ, while yes, it brings money in, you know, the fan base absolutely loves RDJ as Iron Man, but to cast him as a different character, albeit it could be that storyline of Dr. Doom switches brains or bodies or something along those lines with Tony Stark for reasons that are beyond me. It could be that storyline, or it could just be like what we've already discussed, that it's a variant that, you know, just happens to look like Tony Stark, but is Dr. Doom, whatever. I don't know. And like what Tristan just said, we have Logan, a different Logan, you know, Deadpool addressed it at the beginning of this movie. Like, I know what you're wondering. How are we going to do this without dishonoring Logan's memory? Well, I'll tell you how. We're not. So it's like, if we've already set that precedent with this movie, then that's who's to say they're not going to continue maybe doing something similar for other movies if they're going to bring back past actors in different roles. That being said, I was actually kind of hoping that we would get a new Kang. There was rumors circulating that during San Diego Comic-Con that a new Kang was going to be announced by Marvel because of obvious reasons that Jonathan Majors is no longer part of Marvel Studios and what have you. That's what I was kind of hoping for, because I really did enjoy like Kang, and I did enjoy, albeit Jonathan Majors' performance. I was just looking forward to see what that storyline was going to look like. It's already been decided. I mean, obviously they had already determined like the Avengers 5, Kang Dynasty, and then Secret Wars and how all that was going to play in. But obviously they've abandoned that altogether, and they're moving into a direction with Dr. Doom. I even remember hearing earlier this year, I want to say, that Henry Cavill might have been in discussions to being Dr. Doom, or maybe it was Giancarlo Esposito.
Ryan Gosling also, he's been mentioned as Dr. Doom. John Hamm has been mentioned as a possible Dr. Doom. Yeah, exactly.
So there were other actors that seemed to have discussions with Marvel Studios with being part of the MCU. And I was kind of hoping that it would be something of that nature. My whole thing with RDJ, he's a phenomenal actor. We love him to death, of course, but it's like, it's going to do something for me personally by bringing him back if he's going to be like a Tony Stark and he's now Dr. Doom. It's just like, okay, then that like phenomenal death sacrifice was just, it doesn't mean anything anymore. That's just me personally.
Yeah, no, I get that. You know, whenever I heard this rumor a week or so ago, and I thought, oh, that's ridiculous. Like, why would they do that? And then when it actually happened last night, I was pretty surprised. But I've thought about it a lot, and I really like it. I think this is going to be great, because just think about the moment, whether he's playing a Victor Von Doom who looks like Tony Stark, or he is a Tony Stark variant. Imagine the moment when the Avengers, the ones the OG Avengers, when they have to face off with him as Doom, and they recognize, like, think about when Spider-Man, Spider-Man is the reason why Tony Stark decided to give up his life and his family to go back and, and save everybody Endgame. Imagine when Spider-Man sees that he has to fight Victor Von Doom, who looks like Robert Downey Jr. Like, that's going to be a crazy moment. And I mean, I have to believe they're going to play that up.
But then are they going to bring back Chris Evans as Captain America?
Well, I mean, Chris Evans is not dead. I mean, Captain America, Steve Rogers is not dead. So who knows? They definitely could bring him back. I would think that they almost certainly will for Secret Wars.
But see, and that's my problem too with that too, is you bring back Chris Evans, what does that mean for Anthony Mackie's character? Like
Thank you. The mantle.
You had a whole show about the mantle,
but
being passed on. So if you bring back Chris Evans, Secret Wars' own way makes sense. If like a multiversal storyline, but like if you bring back Chris Evans in any other format, you kind of cheapen the whole mantle of Anthony Mackie taking on that Chris Evans role.
No, but he doesn't give up the mantle. I mean, Steve Rogers can be a character, and Sam Wilson could still be Captain America, right? I mean,
could he though? I really highly doubt that.
Kevin Feige is going to bring back Chris Evans as just
and not
character.
Well, but think about it. Like if Chris Evans comes back, he's not going to be coming back to be Captain America for 10 more years or something. It's going to be in a big moment in Secret Wars or something. I mean, what about this, Frank? There's comic precedent of Wolverine and Deadpool and Captain America teaming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the movie we just talked about, we saw Wolverine, Deadpool, and we thought it was Captain America, but it was actually Johnny Storm, Chris Evans. What if Steve Rogers returns with Deadpool and Wolverine to help fight Doom or something? I mean, like, there's a lot of options that they could really go to.
I just think you kind of just take away the finality of that mantle if Chris Evans comes back as Captain America in any form of fashion. It just cheapens Anthony Mackie's relevance as a character. It's like why even have the mantle pass off if Chris Evans comes back as Captain America in any form of fashion? It cheapens Brave New World. It cheapens anything Anthony Mackie does after.
And I think if people really have cause to feel that the multiverse is just not working, I think when they do that, it's really, I mean, it works, but it just, I don't know, it's like disrespectful. That's just me. I think it's disrespectful to the actor. I think it's disrespectful to the character, the mantle. Mm-hmm. Like it's disrespectful to us as the audience because we invested so much time in caring for these characters. And then they had like the grandest of farewells. And then you're just going to bring them back. Why? Because of money?
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on. No. Then MCU would deserve to fall during this saga. Like, I wholeheartedly believe that.
We've talked about it. In comic books, none of these characters die. Like soap operas, that people don't die. They find ways to bring them back. These last forever. Like characters, they're reincarnated. They're brought back. Like that's just the way this stuff goes. I mean.
Yeah, but it's hard. It's easier for comic books and cartoons because those guys don't age. Those machos, those characters are forever, right? When you bring that from comic books to the movies, it's hard to do that because it makes it less believable. Like because it's live action. Everything is in live action. Mm-hmm. Like when Black Widow died and when Captain America retired and Tony Stark died. That's what made Endgame so great because it was the end of a saga. It was the end of a chapter that should be forever immortalized. If you're gonna do all of that, call movie Endgame, have this 10-year story arc, only to bring back characters all over again, it just I don't know. It to me it just cheapens the whole Endgame saga that they had 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a valid point. It's a fair point. I just think it's too enticing of a move to not make. I mean, obviously they're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. Like that. Like I think we all kind of thought he was going to come back in some form for Secret Wars, probably as Iron Man.
I absolutely did not. I will stand here and say I did not think that.
I mean, even this year after he won the Oscar with Oppenheimer, he was talking about it in magazine pieces about how he was kind of ready to return, or he wouldn't say
That's
no.
fine, but that didn't necessarily
Right.
mean that he was going to. But I never believed that he truly was actually going to come back, because I felt like him as an actor and all that he put into the MCU, kicking it off with the very first movie in the MCU.
Yeah.
You come back and then like your role and all that is diminished, in my opinion. But hey, I'm just me.
But it is
What does
exciting.
Tristan think about all this?
About we're all over the place.
What do you think of RDJ's return as Doctor Doom? Does it cheapen anything that is the MCU, given his huge role as Iron Man and Tony Stark?
I don't know if cheapen is the word I would use. I think it complicates it, because we have to remember with Tony Stark dying, like that was a really cathartic moment. Like some of us, me, dropped literal tears. But I mean, I think it plays into the complexity of like all this, the variant shit. Like I said, like once you introduce the variant shit, you open the door for so much shit.
Yeah.
Now narratively, it still has to make sense.
Right.
But yeah, like it's all the same to me. Like, yeah, so we bring back the same character. He just looks different, or he shaves the mustache, he cuts off the beard,
Right.
and it's like, okay, how is that different? To me, it's not so much different from all the other variant stuff that we've seen. Which again, I'm not a big fan of. So if anybody was going to say that it cheapens it would be me. I'm just not a big fan of the variant shit. I'm not a big fan of the space shit, the multiverse shit. Even in Deadpool and Wolverine, when they start talking about, was it anchor beings and Time Ripper, and like, what the fuck are we talking about? What the fuck? This is made up shit. Like, what the fuck are you talking? Russian? It's not my bad. You know what I'm saying? But if you can do all this other shit, what if the series is another thing that kind of opens the door for like just different, more nuanced ways of like bringing back different characters, or characters playing different roles. Like it's not cheapening me. It just doesn't, it just means that Marvel isn't as strict on these things now, because they've introduced the variant storyline and this multiverse. Like anything is possible essentially. And this is just one of those things that's possible.
Yeah. I mean, the multiverse provides a lot of opportunity to, you can bring people back. You can bring back different versions of them. I mean, that's kind of the point of it, right? That's how these stories, they kind of write themselves into a corner, and then they go, oh, multiverse is the way out of the corner, and that's the way you undo a death. And that's been happening in the comics forever. I mean, almost every character has died in the comics, and they almost all come back except for Uncle Ben, from Spider-Man. He never comes back, but all the other ones have come back. So, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but I maybe I'm the lone one who's really excited, but I do think that like the general public will be more excited to have RDJ back, to have the Russo brothers back, because the 4 movies they did are arguably 4 of the best movies. They did Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. Those are, probably 4 of everyone's top 10 Marvel films, I would think, easily. They're also bringing back one of the writers, the writing team of Marcus and McFeely. The McFeely guy, he's actually returning to write these 2 Avengers films. So that gives me also some confidence that it'll be, very well constructed, because Infinity War and Endgame were pretty perfect, the way they kind of paid off all these storylines and gave every character their time to shine. So yeah, I don't know. I think Marvel also, they wanted to make a big splash, because people have been down on the product for a couple of years, and what better way to do that than to bring back your biggest character, your biggest star, and have him come in and save the day once again. I mean, it's the way this stuff works.
I would say this. A lot of people don't know this, but Robert Downey did audition to play Doom in the Fantastic Four movie way back when Feige was on staff. They said his audition was so bad. it was not good at all. But him not getting that audition probably saved MCU, because like if he gets that role, he's probably not Tony Stark in the MCU. And so like that failed audition kind of probably like set off a whole chain reaction of like success for Marvel. So
Yep. Okay. Other Marvel news. There wasn't a ton of other news. The biggest thing was probably the fact that the Fantastic Four movie got a new title. It's now called The Fantastic Four First Steps. And we learned that the Fantastic Four cast will be in the two Avengers movies. They're going to appear both in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. So that's kind of cool. I mean, obviously, Doctor Doom is very much a Fantastic Four villain. So you got to think that RDJ will appear in that movie, which is filming starting like tomorrow. So you got to think he'll probably have at least a cameo post credit or something scene. Frank, what do you think about the Fantastic Four? Are you interested in that? It's going to be in a different universe. So that'll explain why, or how Tony Stark how Robert Downey Jr. could play a different character in that world.
I'm definitely interested in the casting. I think the casting of the Fantastic Four is going to be pretty cool. I love all of them. Vanessa Kirby, Orby Martell is what I call him. He's one of my favorite characters he's ever played. Old buddy from the Bears playing Thing. Like I love the casting. I've never really been a huge Fantastic Four fan, but I feel like Marvel's going to add some special elements to it, especially hopefully tying in to the main timeline.
They're going to be in the Avengers movie, so they're going to have to.
Yeah. So if I read correctly, this is in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
It's staged in the 60s. So
60s, but a different universe, different.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know how they're going to be able to. I don't know, man. I got probably another year or two of like multiverse shit within me before I start getting really annoyed with all the tying of these different timelines and time periods and all that kind of stuff. But I'm excited about it. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see how it plays into the future of the MCU.
Also, underrated line from Deadpool. It's like he pretty much said it. It's like, hey, this multiverse shit not as cool anymore. Like,
yeah, but he said that in a multiverse movie that was working very well. So
yeah,
there is that.
No more though. I'm tired of it. I'm done with it. I hate that shit.
Well, I mean, the multiverse saga, I guess, will end with these Avengers movies. So, and then we'll get to the mutant saga. So we'll see how that goes. Tristan, do you have any thoughts on the Fantastic Four stuff? New title, the cast, just the fact they're going to be in the Avengers movies?
I don't know a damn thing about Fantastic Four, man, besides Jessica Alba.
So she will not be returning. At least not as Sue Storm. That's Vanessa Kirby. Yeah.
Also, don't ask him why.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, I'm not a Fantastic Four person. I know nothing about it. Like I said, I watched the movies. I remember rewatch. It used to come on a bunch. I would, catch parts of it, but it just never caught my interest. So I am looking forward to see. I'll give Marvel the benefit of the doubt, and so hey, catch my attention on this next phase, but nothing.
Yeah, gotcha. Brittany, any Fantastic Four thoughts? I know you're not a big fan of that team, but they are Marvel's first family. So
I'm here for Internet Daddy, and that's probably about it. I couldn't care less about Fantastic Four. I didn't care for the Fox version. I did not care for the reboot or the remake that had it was Michael B. Jordan in it.
Michael B. Jordan,
yeah.
It
was so bad.
Ugh.
It was so bad. It was terrible. I couldn't believe I watched it. I wasted hours of my life that I'm never getting back. And that's why, Justin, I'm never going to watch the Green Lantern. I'm never going to watch Wonder Woman 2, 80 or whatever it's called, 84. Don't ask me. Don't sit here and argue with me about it. That's why. Okay. I don't need to see these movies.
If you haven't watched them though, how do you know they're bad? That's all I'm saying.
Because who have watched them have told me that they're bad. So why would I need to go watch the movies?
I didn't tell you about, I like Wonder Woman 84. So I'm
no.
that movie. Yeah.
No. Anyway,
okay.
That's fine. I'm here for Pedro Pascal. That's the only reason I'm here for it. I will give it a chance.
Yep.
That's all I'm going to say. I will give this a chance because unlike other franchises, I do like the MCU very, very much. But I will give this a chance. In Kevin Feige, we trust. That's something I have said here many a times on our podcast. So I will give it a fair chance. Tracy here in the chat is wondering who is Internet Daddy? Internet Daddy is Pedro Pascal, who is Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four movie. And yeah, I love him. He's great. We love him in Game of Thrones. We love him in The Last of Us. I did see the preview or the trailer, sorry, for Gladiator 2 when I went to watch today's Deadpool and Wolverine. So that was great. But yeah, that's all I'm here for. I couldn't care less about anything else about Fantastic Four.
So from the chat, Rahib has a question about what did you guys think about the flying car at Hall H Comic Con? It looked pretty cool. It's a blue car for the Fantastic Four. Their 1960s is a futurist 1960s, so it should be interesting to see how that plays out. But I thought the car looked pretty cool. We'll see more of that probably soon when they start filming. Final thing. So DC didn't have much to do at Comic Con. They did unveil a new DC Studios logo, which was a throwback to one of the old comics logo. Looks very cool. Go check that out. But the final thing we're going to talk about here is The Boys announced a spinoff series called Vought Rising. Not the greatest name, I don't think. Starring Jensen Ackles and Aya Cash. What do y'all think about this? It's about Vaught's, like how Vought was built in the 1950s. Frank, any thoughts about this prequel series from The Boys?
Down for more echoes. Let's get it. Hate the title. Love Asha Cash as well. I was a big fan of her and You're the Worst FX series that came out like a decade ago. Let's go, bro. Like I need more stories from this Vought universe, from this comic book universe. Well, largely because I don't know much about it. I don't know if it's original material or like if they're drawn from comic books, but the more the better. Kripke has not done me wrong yet, so lay it on me.
There.
Yeah, it's a prequel thing, so like I'm very interested in getting like some more backstory because I don't know, Frank don't know, I don't know shit about it. So like any type of background context, I'm all for, and I'm waiting on The Boys like that universe to miss. Like if they miss on one of these, then we can kind of remove some of that benefit of the doubt. But Gen V, everything else has been great, so. Looking forward to it. And also a big Aya Cash fan because of You're the Worst. So need more.
Yeah. And she was Stormfront in season 2 of The Boys. Yeah. Season 2 and 3. Yeah. Brittany, thoughts on the prequel series, Vought Rising?
2 words, Jensen Ackles. Yes. Give me more. I am a huge fan, of course. And his performance as Soldier Boy was incredible. If we can get to see him in his prime as Soldier Boy in the 50s and 60s or whatever the time period this is going to take place, yes, I need to see him in full force. So I love that. I love that Jensen is very much wanting to be a part of this whole universe, and I can't wait. I absolutely cannot wait.
Yeah, Vought Rising, not a great name, but I bet it'll be a great show. We will be talking about when it airs. I don't know they gave a date, maybe 2026. I'm not sure. We do know Gen V season 2 is 2025. So, and the final season of The Boys is 2026. So anyway, that wraps that up. Now that you know what we think about Deadpool and Wolverine and also our thoughts on Comic-Con, we want to know what you think about it. And Brittany, how can people tell us what they think?
As always, we are very appreciative to those who take the time out of their day to join us in our live chat. And big shout out to those in today's live chat. Amber of all of Amber's Wands, Big Guy, Rahib, M Moves, Tracy. I'm sure there were a couple of other people in here that I might have missed, but
King B. Johnson.
King B. Johnson. How could I forget? My apologies. But thank y'all so much for being here. We're really, really appreciative of y'all joining us, and hopefully are looking forward to the rest of what MCU has to offer, as well as other fandoms that San Diego Comic-Con discussed this weekend. Don't forget to follow us here on YouTube. That's right. Be sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification. We are on the road to 400 subscribers. Help us get there even faster. We're about 11 subs away from 400. So go ahead and like it, subscribe, like, hit that notification bell. Don't forget to follow us on our social media. You can find all those links in our About section here on YouTube. And also don't forget to follow us on our audio podcasts. That's through Apple and Google. I'm sorry, not Google, Spotify. Just kidding. Follow us there. Give us a 5-star rating as well.
Thank you, Brittany. Appreciate it. So for Brittany and Frank and Tristan, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Also, we'll be back later tonight to talk about episode 7, House of the Dragon, the penultimate episode of season 2. So please be sure to join us. But for now, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Maximum effort.
Might be my very